Chapter 193. The next day, Murphy returned to the office a little late. Jining Ming was already sitting on the sofa waiting for her, and Mo Shaowan was chatting with him. Mr. Jin, I'm sorry I'm late. Mo Fei apologized to Jining Ming. Jining Ming smiled and said, It's nothing. Miss Shaowan already told me that you stayed up late last night, so it's normal for you to wake up late today. This was obviously an excuse Mo Shaowan gave her. Murphy blushed and turned to look at Mo Shaowan. However, Mo Xiaojuan's teasing eyes made her quickly turn her head away, not daring to look directly at Mo Shaowan. Seeing that your voice is still a little hoarse, I think we don't need to record songs this morning. Let's listen to the previous tracks and analyze where you didn't sing well, and make a record. Jining Ming was still talking. And okay. Murphy nodded lightly. In front of others, she returned to her original cold self. Sister, let's go. Let's go get some water. I'll make you some throat-soothing tea. Mo Xiaojuan's eyes rolled around. She stood up with a smile, took Murphy's arm, and dragged her out. You can go by yourself. I have to work. Murphy frowned in confusion. She felt very guilty for being late, and felt that she had wasted time. I can't carry that much. I can't carry that much by myself. I still have to bring a cup for Teacher Jean. Mo Shaowan smiled. Jining Ming heard this and quickly stood up. He said, How about I go? However, Mo Shaowan had an ulterior motive. She waved her hand and smiled. No need, no need. Before going to the pantry, Mo Fei was pulled to a secluded corner outside by her. This girl looked at Mo Fei with a smirk on her face, which made Mo Fei a little uncomfortable. What did I do to you? Sister, look at your smooth and moist skin. Look at your pink and delicate face. Mo Shaowan took Murphy's hand and chuckled like a hooligan. Did you do something naughty with brother-in-law last night? What bad thing? Don't spout nonsense. Murphy blushed and reached out to pinch Mo Xiaojuan's waist. Mo Shaowan nimbly jumped back and made a face mischievously. You're still hiding it from me. Who asked brother-in-law to send you home last night? You're not even thanking me. What do you mean? Murphy was thin-skinned. Even if it was Mo Shaowan, she was a little embarrassed to say it, so she stammered as she refuted. Your younger sister can be considered as someone who has been through this before. How can I not understand? Mo Shaowan covered her mouth and snickered. Look at your face, you can pinch water out of it. Our epiphyllum must have been moisturized. Murphy pursed her lips and shyness was written all over her face. She didn't deny it, but she was also embarrassed to admit it. Tell me, is brother-in-law awesome? Mo Xiaojuan's eyes were filled with the light of gossip as she pulled Murphy and asked. Murphy pushed her hand and said angrily, All right, don't ask anymore. Go make tea. Mo Shaowan covered her mouth and snickered. Even if you don't say it, I can guess it. It must have been a lot of torment. Brother-in-law really doesn't know how to have tender feelings for the fairer sex. Look at your voice, it wasn't this hoarse last night. Murphy thought of last night's passion and thought of this morning's warmth. Her face and ears turned red. In order to cover it up, she deliberately put on a stern face and said to Mo Shaowan, Are you done? Go make tea. Mo Shaowan knew that her cousin was thin-skinned, so she didn't tease her anymore. She smiled and hugged her arm as the two walked to the pantry. The instigator, Yang Yi, didn't know anything. He sent Murphy to the company and returned to the coffee shop feeling refreshed. He opened the door, hung up the sign, and prepared to open for business. The first person to come to the door wasn't a customer, but Guazi. He brought a girl and excitedly pushed the door open and shouted, Brother Yang, didn't you open the door this morning? My senior came early and waited for a long time but didn't see you. And I'm sending Shishi to kindergarten. Yang Yi replied simply. He was checking the stock of coffee beans on the shelf. When he finished, he turned around and saw the girl and was stunned. Well, actually I thought you overslept. I can't get up so early, so after my senior told me, I thought to accompany her to knock on the door behind you. Guazi kept talking. This is my senior, her surname is Ding. Ding Xiang? Yang Yi looked at the other party and recognized her. He smiled faintly. Yes, Ding Xiang. Brother Yang, how did you know? Guazi was surprised to find this problem. At this time, Ding Xiang also recognized Yang Yi. After all, they met twice. Moreover, each time Yang Yi brought a cute little girl. She said in surprise, "Ah, I remember, you are the father of that little girl. Oh, her name is Shishi. She is a very cute little girl. I have a deep impression of her." Yang Yi smiled and said, "Yes, we met twice. I didn't expect that the senior that Guozi talked about was you. You two really know each other?" Guozi interjected from the side. Ding Xiang smiled and said, "Yes, last month at the temple fair, I went to sell cotton candy and saw the boss and his daughter. But at that time, I remembered his daughter's name. It was very nice. And she came back and still can't forget your cotton candy." Yang Yi smiled. In fact, at this time, after knowing that the student who came to apply for the job was Ding Xiang, Yang Yi more or less had an answer in his heart. Although he had only met her twice, he still understood Ding Xiang's character. Such an optimistic and hard-working young lady couldn't be too bad. "Since you know her, then it's easy." Guozi smiled and said, "What does Brother Yang think of my senior? Does Fu meet your criteria for selecting a coffee shop employee?" However, Ding Xiang hesitated. She looked at the artistic decoration of the coffee shop, and looked at the grand piano next to it. She felt a little ashamed and said, "I don't think I'm suitable. I'm not beautiful. What if I affect the business of the shop?" Ding Xiang didn't say some words. She wanted to work part-time in the milk tea shop and coffee shop in the East Gate, but she was rejected by the boss when they met. Although the other party said it very tactfully, the meaning was still the same. She was too dark. They would rather hire a beautiful girl to work part-time at a high price than hire her with a low salary. What beautiful! Guozi was a little annoyed. He really wanted to help this kind-hearted senior apprentice sister. "Let me tell you, my big brother Yang has already rejected countless beautiful students, because he is not a mascot." Yang Yi smiled faintly and said, "That's right. I'm looking for a shop assistant who can work and share my burden. Look at the recruitment notice I wrote. The requirements are not good facial features. My senior's facial features are not bad. It's just that she's a little dark and a little thin." Guozi on the side ruthlessly exposed Ding Xiang's scars. "The most important thing is that she is very hardworking and has great strength. She can carry heavy things." Ding Xiang was really angry and amused at him, but now she didn't have time to bicker with Guozi. She asked Yang Yi a little apprehensively, "Can I really?" "Whether you can or not, I don't have the final say. It depends on your performance." Yang Yi wiped his hands, opened the small door of the bar, smiled and said, "Come here, I'll teach you how to make coffee. Let's see if you can learn quickly." Ding Xiang looked at Yang Yi in surprise and quickly said, "Thank you, boss, for giving me this opportunity. I will work hard." Chapter 194. It has to be said that the children of the poor were able to take charge of the household early. Ding Xiang was used to doing all kinds of farm work and housework since she was a child. When she came to the big city, she kept doing part-time jobs to save money for her school fees. More importantly, she was originally a clever girl. Under Yang Yi's guidance, she quickly got the hang of it. Starting from grinding beans, she finally brewed a cup of coffee. Then she brought it in front of Guozi. "No way, using me as a lab rat?" Guozi's face was a little green. "How about I drink it?" Ding Xiang was a little embarrassed. "You don't drink much coffee, so you can't tell the taste. It's best to let him try it." Yang Yi shook his head. Guozi helplessly ridiculed. "Then why don't you drink it?" Yang Yi indifferently said, "I don't drink ordinary coffee. My mouth is picky." Guozi had to test the poison himself. However, the taste was not bad, which was a little beyond his expectations. He smacked his lips and said, "It's okay, but it seems to lack something." "What is it?" Ding Xiang quickly took out a small notebook, wanting to take notes. Yang Yi did not open his mouth. He stood quietly at the side, silently watching Guozi show off. "It lacks a very unique coffee flavor. This requires you to devote 100% of your attention to the process of making it." This guy even danced and said affectionately, "When you grind the coffee beans, you have to think of flowers, think of bees, think of the sea, think of the mountains. Inject your beautiful wishes into it, and you will be able to brew this unique coffee. This is the best coffee in the world. Ah, so abstract. But I don't understand. How should I do it? Ding Xiang was still very honest and frowned. You have to. Ouch. Guazi's head was knocked. Yang Yi finally could not bear it. He knocked Guazi's head, smiled and said to Ding Xiang, "Don't listen to his nonsense, this guy is fooling you." After letting Ding Xiang try it a few more times, Yang Yi was not as picky as he said just now. He also picked up a cup and tasted it. Well, as a newbie, the coffee you make is drinkable and tastes good. It's already very good. The rest is to practice more and use experience to make up for the shortcomings. Then learn more and increase your understanding of my coffee beans. You should be able to brew coffee for me. Yang Yi nodded and said. In other words, my senior sister has been hired? Guazi asked directly. Ding Xiang also looked at Yang Yi nervously. Yang Yi smiled, nodded and said, "Yes, from today onwards, if you don't have classes during the day, you can come to work and help me temporarily. During this period, I'll give you a salary of 3,000 yuan a month. When you can independently help me look after the store, your salary will be raised to 5,000 yuan. 3,000 yuan is too little," Guazi shouted. "My monthly allowance is more than 3,000 yuan. This is a child from a rich family." But Ding Xiang waved her hand again and again. She was surprised and nervous as she said, "It's not little, it's not little. I think 3,000 yuan is a lot. Most of the time, I have to attend classes, and can only work part-time for a period of time. I'm already very embarrassed. 3,000 yuan is too much." Ding Xiang lived frugally, and could not spend more than a few hundred yuan a month. If it was 3,000 yuan, she could still save more than 2,000 yuan. This way, she could save up for next year's school fees. Perhaps she could still have money to treat her grandmother's illness. But Ding Xiang felt a little apologetic, because she used to work part-time for a salary of 1 or 2,000 yuan. 3,000 yuan was really inconceivable for her. She felt a little apologetic. Yang Yi turned a deaf ear to her words. He touched his chin and nodded to Guazi and said, "It feels a little too little. How about 4,000? Is 4,000 enough?" His last sentence was to consult with Ding Xiang. Ding Xiang quickly waved her hand and said in embarrassment, "It's enough, it's too much." "Then it's 4,000. If you can take charge alone, then increase it to 6,000. Yang Yi waved his hand and directly made a decision. Yang Yi's original intention was not to help Ding Xiang. He had too much money to spend. It just so happened that there was a satisfactory girl to help him share the coffee shop's work, so that he could be a shopkeeper in the future. This freedom was priceless. Guazi also chimed in, "Senior sister, you don't have to refuse. Brother Yang is a rich man. He doesn't care. Moreover, with money, you don't have to work part-time in places like bars. You can study hard in school." "Well, I don't have any rules in this coffee shop. If there are no customers, you can sit down and read a book." Yang Yi nodded and said, "Thank you." Ding Xiang was so grateful that she almost shed tears. "Boss, thank you so much." "What's the big deal? By the way, you don't have to call me boss. It's strange. You can look at Guazi and call me Brother Yang. We're all friends." Yang Yi smiled slightly. "Yes, Brother Yang." Ding Xiang had tears in her eyes. She revealed her white teeth and smiled brightly. She turned her head and worked diligently. She actively helped Yang Yi wipe the table, cups, and even mop the floor. Whatever Yang Yi wanted to do, she rushed to do it. She was even more diligent than Thumbelina. "Don't you have classes today?" Yang Yi was really idle. He changed the album and listened to the song, then casually asked, "Class hasn't started yet." "Senior sister, next week is the first week of classes." Ding Xiang was mopping the floor. She heard him and looked up. "Yes, so this week I will definitely seize the opportunity to learn how to make coffee from Brother Yang." This level of seriousness was comparable to Cece's. At this time, Guazi came over and asked with a shy smile, "Brother Yang, did that person come today?" "Who?" Yang Yi's eyes were filled with doubt. "The one from yesterday, senior sister Du." Guazi glanced at Ding Xiang, then lowered his voice and said, "Oh, you mean the girl you liked yesterday? Her name is Du Yuanlei, right?" She's also a graduate student. Yang Yi suddenly realized. Guazi hurriedly gestured to Yang Yi to lower his voice. But Ding Xiang still heard it. She looked up at Guazi and secretly laughed. But she still focused on mopping the floor, and didn't say a word. She didn't come today. Yang Yi smiled and said in a low voice. So when does she usually come? Guazi was a little disappointed. Usually? I don't know. It should be her first time here yesterday? After Yang Yi had Murphy and Shishi, other girls were the same to him. He didn't remember them at all. His impression was vague. Maybe it was her first time? Guazi scratched his head. Hey, since you like her so much, why don't you sign up for the freshman party and perform well? She's also a freshman. She'll definitely go, right? Ding Xiang twisted the mop. Her thin arms were strong. She raised her head and smiled to give Guazi advice. Guazi's eyes lit up. Chapter 195. I can reach this high. I can touch the sky. I can reach this low. I can touch my toes. I can turn in circles, then sit down quietly on the floor. Note 1. In the middle class of Springfield Kindergarten, the young teacher Kai was singing nursery rhymes with the children, singing and dancing at the same time. Although the lyrics seemed childish, the melody was still very beautiful. Moreover, in the eyes of the children of this age, singing and dancing in circles was still very fresh and fun. For a while, the children were sweating and panting, but they were also giggling nonstop and having a lot of fun. All right, children, take a break. Teacher Shen has prepared milk for everyone. Quickly go and find your own cup to drink. Teacher Mu grasped the rhythm of the class. When it was about time, he smiled and stopped them, speaking gently to the children. Every child's physique was different. For example, Shishi and Chen Shiyun's physical fitness were better. They had just warmed up, but they still felt that they weren't playing enough. However, Lan Xian and Yang Luoqi were a little overwhelmed. As soon as the teacher called for a break, they couldn't wait to sit on the ground. Xian Chi, let's go drink milk. Shishi was full of energy. She skipped around Lan Xian and Yang Luoqi. Okay. Yang Luoqi was the first to get up. After all, she had practiced dancing. Lan Xian didn't want to move. She stretched out her hand pitifully and said, Shishi, pull me. However, how could Shishi pull her? After trying for a while, the little girl had an idea. Chen Shiyun, come over and help, okay? You pull one side, I'll pull the other side, and Xian can stand up. Chen Shiyun heard the sound and ran over. When she saw Lan Xian, she curled her lips and said, I don't want to pull Lan Xian. Why doesn't she stand up herself? Lazy bum. You're the lazy bum. Lan Xian didn't get along with Chen Shiyun. Now that she was back, she turned over and got up from the ground. I don't want you to pull me. Shishi was sandwiched between the two of them. She could only say anxiously, Oh, Xian Chen Shiyun, can you stop quarreling? We're good friends, we can't quarrel. Look at her standing up on her own. You're lying. Chen Shiyun turned around and ran away. She was not like Lan Xian and Yang Luoqi, who were inseparable from Shishi. She also had her own subordinates. That was what she said. Even Nanjiayu didn't play with Shishi all the time. At this time, boys and girls were more or less aware of gender. If they played with girls often, they would be laughed at by the boys' circle. The anger between children came and went quickly. Just as Shishi, Lan Xian, and Yang Luoqi were drinking milk from their small cups at Teacher Shen's place, they couldn't help laughing at the mustaches on each other's mouths from time to time. Chen Shiyun ran over again. Shishi. Didn't you say yesterday that you were going to ask your father if we could go to your house to play? Chen Shiyun asked. Yes, what did your father say? Lan Xian's interest was piqued, and she used her loud voice to echo. Oh, I forgot about it. Cece patted her little head and giggled as she said. You forgot to ask your father? Lan Xian was anxious. Although Yang Luoqi didn't say anything, her eyes were full of disappointment. She had been thinking about Shishi's kitten. Of course, Lan Xian was thinking about food, so was Chen Shiyun. No. Cece giggled. My papa said that he wanted to invite you to our house to play, but he wanted me to see how many people would go, and when you would go to play. I forgot about this. Lan Xian breathed a sigh of relief. The little foodie immediately raised her chubby little arms and said happily, I can go, I want to go, Shishi, I want to go. I want to go too. Yang Luoqi echoed with a smile. Chen Shiyan was even more enthusiastic. She patted her chest and said, Shishi, don't worry, I will help you ask, but I want to go too. Yes, yes. You have to tell your papa. My papa said that he will contact your papa and tell them where our house is. Only then can you come over. Cece's memory was not bad. She wrote down her father's words. The sales of Shishi's bedtime stories were poor. The promotion department of Sahara Publishing House did everything they could, but they couldn't make a turn for the better. They sold some, but it was far from their expectations. The chain bookstore, which had a little conflict with Sahara Publishing House, saw the opportunity and moved the book to an inconspicuous corner to take revenge for the resentment that had accumulated before. However, on this day, a middle-aged woman dressed like a housewife came to the only chain bookstore in Langya City, Book Fragrance Pavilion. Hello, madam. What kind of book do you want to buy? I can recommend it to you. The shop assistant of Book Fragrance Pavilion came up to her. I came to Langya for a meeting and happened to be staying in the hotel upstairs. I was thinking of buying some books for my daughter as a gift, the middle-aged woman said with a smile. You came to Langya for a meeting? Are you a teacher of the Writers' Association? The shop assistant was well informed. Yes. Yu Qian smiled and nodded. The shop assistant obviously didn't recognize her, but Yu Qian didn't like to be too ostentatious. She definitely wouldn't tell the shop assistant that she was Yu Qian, the best-selling author of youth literature, or that she had an even more shocking title, the director of Guangdong Province's Writers' Association. Seeing that the other party didn't want to talk about it in detail, the shop assistant returned to her job and asked, How old is your daughter? She is only 6 years old this year. She is still at the age where she likes to read fairy tales. Bring me to the fairy tale section. I want to choose by myself, Yu Qian said with a smile. Okay. The shop assistant could only follow Yu Qian's request and bring her to the fairy tale section, then walked away silently. Yu Qian glanced at the row of shelves in front of her. There were many popular fairy tale books on the shelves. The names were familiar. Yu Qian, who often bought books for her daughter, had read all of them before. In recent years, the market for children's books was a little short of fresh blood. The old authors were lacking in ideas, and the new authors didn't have any good works. Even if the books were popular, Yu Qian felt that they were either not suitable for her daughter, or the quality was average. The stories lacked novelty. Influenced by her mother, her daughter who loved to read also had a bad taste. She probably wouldn't like the books she bought for her. Since she was on a business trip and was staying in a hotel, Yu Qian wanted to look around to see if there were any good books buried in the non-best-selling book section. Looking for books, this might be one of the joys of a book lover. She saw a storybook with a blue cover, Shishi's bedtime story. This name was quite interesting. Her daughter's nickname was Princess Qian Qian. Qian Qian and Shishi were homophones. Yu Qian decided to flip it open just because of the name. Chapter 196. It was past 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which was the hottest time outside. There were only 2 customers in the coffee shop, and they were the ones who ordered coffee and sat there reading. Although Yang Yi told her that she could do her own things in her free time, Ding Xiang still refused to read on her first day of work. Even though there were no customers, she still sat at the bar with a straight back. Yang Yi looked at his watch, put away the book in his hand, stood up from the sofa and stretched. He walked to the bar and said to Ding Xiang, It's about time. I'll go get the sign. You can go back after you pack up. So early? Ding Xiang asked in surprise. Who would run a coffee shop that opened at 11 o'clock in the morning and closed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? This also included the 2 hours of lunch break that they had to close the shop. Ding Xiang was prepared to work here tonight and grind a few more cups of coffee to increase her experience. Yang Yi smiled faintly and said, My daughter finishes school at 5:30. I have to pick her up at the kindergarten early. This might be an explanation. Then what time do I come over to work tonight? Ding Xiang asked in a low voice. She planned to go back to eat, take a shower and change clothes before coming over. She didn't have any suitable clothes, but there was a neatly folded uniform with a white shirt and black trousers in the wardrobe. Senior sister Mao Peifu had forced her to buy it for her when she had been dragged to a bank credit card event. That is, to get someone to apply for a card, by senior sister Mao Peifu. It wasn't expensive, around 200 yuan. Ding Xiang couldn't bear to wear it, and planned to try it out when she applied for a job in her senior year. Now that she was going to work in the coffee shop, she had to take care of the boss's image. No, the boss didn't seem to have any image in pants and slippers. Anyway, she had to dress up properly and have a good working attitude. Tonight? It's not open at night, Yang Yi said matter-of-factly. Ah, it's not open at night? Ding Xiang was really confused. It's not just at night. It might be closed for the whole day when I'm not free, but I'll call you when the time comes. Ding Xiang had left her dormitory's phone number before. Yang Yi smiled and said, "By the way, I forgot to tell you that weekends are also free time. You are free to arrange it." Ding Xiang didn't know how she got back to the dormitory. She was a little absent-minded, and it took her a long time to recover. Wasn't this part-time job a little too strange? Ding Xiang didn't have time to eat. She hurriedly left the dormitory and went to the male dormitory area. Under the strange gazes of the male students, she called out Guazi. 5 days a week, less than 5 hours a day. Also, I might not be able to come because I have classes. Let's count it as 2 days. That's about 3 days and 15 hours. 60 hours a month. I'll get a salary of 4,000 yuan for 60 hours? Ding Xiang uneasily voiced her doubts. Why is Big Brother Yang giving me such a high treatment? His coffee shop doesn't actually make that much money? Guazi listened for a long time before he understood Ding Xiang's meaning. He held back his laughter and patted her shoulder. Like a brother, he said, "Don't worry, senior sister. I've already told you that Big Brother Yang has too much money to burn. You don't know that his main business is not opening a shop. He writes novels. Who knows how much money he earns from writing novels? But I can't take so much money from him." Ding Xiang felt uneasy. She couldn't help with anything. It doesn't matter. Anyway, Big Brother Yang wants to open a shop. If you work a little harder and help him share some of the burden, let him have time to enjoy his free time, the salary he gives you is worth it. Guazi was quite accurate. Ding Xiang was silent. Guazi's words gave her inspiration. Why did she have to think about whether Big Brother Yang should give her so much money? Why didn't she think about how she could be worth Big Brother Yang's 4,000 yuan salary? The teacher who taught them economics once said, "The value of an employee doesn't lie in his own ability, but in how much profit he can create for the company." Ding Xiang had to work hard. In the evening, Yang Yi picked up Shishi. She was still thinking about it. She wanted to go to the place where her mother worked to play like yesterday. "No, your mother is working hard. She has to record songs and rest. We can't disturb her at this time." Yang Yi seriously reasoned with Shishi. In the morning, Murphy complained for a long time about Yang Yi. She said that he tortured her voice until it was hoarse. In the future, no matter what, he couldn't do such a bad thing. In order not to let Murphy worry about her record, Yang Yi had to coax his daughter. This time they really couldn't disturb Murphy. "Well, let's wait until the weekend to play with Mom and have barbecue together." Shishi was still very well behaved. Yang Yi smiled bitterly and said, "Barbecue is fine. I'll let you and your friends eat it, but your mother can't eat barbecue. She has to control her diet during this time and take care of her voice." Shishi was a little regretful, but the little girl's attention was attracted by another topic mentioned by her father. She patted her head and said with a small look of annoyance, "Oh, Shishi forgot to tell Papa that there are a lot of people coming to Papa's house to play." The little girl sat cross-legged on the carpet, lowered her head and counted with her fingers. "There's Chun Shiyin, Chi-Chi, Xian Er, Nan Zhaoyu." In addition to Shishi's 4 best friends, there were other children who had a good relationship with Shishi, and they all wanted to play together. "Oh, I can't count clearly. How many are there?" Shishi was confused after counting 2 fingers. A total of 12. Yang Yi smiled and said to Shishi, "Papa is so awesome. I remember all of them." She looked at her father with admiration and envy. Yang Yi laughed and said, "In fact, it's very simple. You have to count dozens of numbers in your heart, from 1 to 10, and then turn back and continue counting." Yang Yi told his daughter about the decimal algorithm, but he didn't know if the little girl could understand. In this world, some people were immersed in stroking cats, some people were immersed in stroking cats, and some people did nothing but immersed in bits and pieces with their daughters all day long. Note 1. It was this guy, Yang Yi, who hadn't logged into his mailbox for several days, couldn't remember what he had forgotten. "Ah, Duluan, do you think I've been cheated? I sent him 3 million yuan, but he didn't respond for several days." In the Zhu family's mansion, Zhu Jie was angrily questioning his agent, who was also his advisor. "Jie, you haven't withdrawn your 3 million yuan money order yet. How can you say you've been cheated? If you haven't withdrawn it after half a month, you'll still return it the same way you came." Duluan comforted Zhu Jie, but he sighed in his heart. "Now you know how to be distressed. Why didn't you discuss it with me when you hurriedly sent the money? In this world, you can withdraw money without the original money order," Zhu Jie said with a smile. "Yes, I know. Maybe Mu Ziong forgot to check his mailbox. Maybe he's preparing to respond to me." "Yes." Duluan nodded. He sighed in his heart. "I hope I can really buy Mu Ziang's song this time. Maybe Zhu Jie can be promoted. This guy is too useless." Last time, when Murphy was still popular after her return, I asked him to take advantage of the popularity. But I didn't expect that it didn't work at all. He really doesn't know how to grasp the opportunity. Duluan was smart and ambitious. He was not willing to just be a mediocre agent for Zhu Jie. Since he was going to do it, he had to do something. Otherwise, how could he show his talent? Chapter 197. Near noon, Mo Xiaowan, who went to the meeting before, came in with a stack of documents. She had a confused look on her face. "Sister, you're going on a business trip again. There's a commercial performance? Didn't I already tell Sister Ling to cancel it?" Murphy frowned. "It's not a commercial performance. This Saturday in Yangcheng, Guangdong Province TV station, you're going to participate in the recording of Fast Music. Mo Xiaowan added, "The planning department also asked you to bring a new song to participate, and they also want you to sing it live." In fact, this wasn't a problem. Fast Music was the ace music program of Guangdong Province TV station. It had a very wide audience. When Murphy released her comeback album last time, she didn't even have the chance to go on it. As for bringing a new song to the show, this was also the routine of stars releasing new albums. From time to time, they would announce the source of 1 or 2 songs to keep the fans in suspense. As long as the music was good, the sales wouldn't be low. "I'm sorry, I might not be a member of your company. It's a bit inappropriate to say this, but I still want to ask, why do you want to go on the show so early?" Jining Ming asked in a low voice. "We've actually just started recording the song. There's still a lot of work to do. These can't be done in a month or 2. Isn't this warming up a bit too early?" "It's not just early. It's also very rushed. It's simply contrary to the normal process." But Jining Ming couldn't be too clear. After all, he was just a small mercenary producer. Of course, there was a problem. It was this that made Mo Xiaowan confused. When she was in the meeting just now, she was a bit upset about why she arranged for Xiao AI to resign so early to help her. Now that Xiao AI was gone, there was no one in the planning department to inform her. Murphy also felt that it was a bit inappropriate. In her experience, she had never seen a show arranged so early. However, the show Fast Music was still very attractive to her. Sometimes, the onlooker could not see the game clearly. This was the case with Murphy. Mo Xiaowan was a bystander, but her clear and beautiful almond-shaped eyes were focused on Jining Ming. She secretly muttered, "Uncle Jean is not bad, he even spoke up for us. He shouldn't be one of Sister Ling's people. When Sister Faye's album is released, let's see if we can poach him to the company." The studio that was currently being built needed all kinds of talents. If she didn't want to be restricted by large companies and not be afraid of Sister Ling's revenge in the future, Mo Xiaowan had to open up the hero rankings and recruit talents. Of course, she wanted Muziang the most. With Muziang, this great talent, Murphy didn't have to worry about not having good songs to sing in the future. However, Mo Shawan couldn't reveal anything now. She could only gather a group of friends to build the framework of the studio. When Murphy's contract ended in the future, they could start moving. Obviously, she still had to participate in fast music. Regardless of whether the company's arrangement was fishy or not, Murphy couldn't miss the appointment. After all, it was the Ace Music program in Guangdong province. If she didn't go this time, they wouldn't invite her again next time. Since he decided to participate, Jinming also put aside his distracting thoughts and discussed with Murphy to choose a song that could be announced in advance. Then he made the accompaniment and let Murphy start to find the feeling of singing the song in public. However, Murphy didn't work overtime to record songs today. She was worried about something, so she asked Mo Shawan to send her to Yang Yi's place. At night, Murphy rested her head on Yang Yi's strong arm. Her face was still flushed. She panted slightly but said apologetically, "Yang Yi, I'm sorry. I can't attend Shishi's party with her friends. You have to take care of them alone." "What's the matter? Didn't you tell me that you were going to record an important program?" Yang Yi gently stroked her smooth and gentle face and said with a smile, "This isn't the first time. As a star, you often have to run around outside. I'm used to it. But I still feel sorry for you and Shishi. I know that Shishi really wants me to attend." Tonight she almost cried. Murphy said this, and her nose was sour. Yang Yi sighed and said, "In fact, it's all the same. Even if you don't record the program, you can't appear. Aren't you worried that Shishi's identity will be exposed by the media?" Murphy hesitated for a moment and said, "I'm worried that she's too young, and then the media will gossip and make wild guesses. It will have a great impact on Shishi, so I don't dare to make it public." But now Murphy and Yang Yi were really together. They were a normal family. Even if they made it public, there wouldn't be a big problem, right? But I've seen the children of other families in the entertainment industry. Actually, they will also make it public. Some will openly tell the media, and some won't, but people know about it. Those don't seem to be a big problem. Murphy said softly. Yang Yi smiled and said, "All right, why are you thinking so much? Don't give you too much pressure. If you want to make it public, then make it public. If you don't want to make it public, then keep it a secret. What's wrong with that?" "Okay." Murphy nodded meekly, but her brows were still furrowed. She was still thinking in her heart. "Let's set a time? When this album sells well and finds the original feeling again, I must bravely tell the media and the fans." Seeing that Murphy was still a little uncertain, Yang Yi smiled slightly. He remembered a little trick he had seen in his previous life. "Hey Murphy, let me ask you," he said softly. Murphy looked at Yang Yi in confusion. "Do you know what the happiest number is?" Yang Yi asked with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. Murphy felt that she was hopeless. She couldn't answer this seemingly simple question. After thinking for a while, she still shook her head in confusion. "What is it?" "It's 5. Why?" Murphy didn't understand. "Show me 5 with your hand." Murphy did as she was told. She stretched out her left hand and showed 5 fingers. Then Yang Yi also stretched out his right hand, clasped his fingers with hers and held them tightly. Then he smiled and said, "Well, isn't this very happy?" Murphy burst out laughing. She blushed and hammered Yang Yi's chest with her pink fist. "You're so annoying." It was really annoying. It almost made her doubt her IQ. Yang Yi also smiled, but he didn't let go of Murphy's hand. In fact, he just wanted to tease Mo Fei, let her laugh happily, and stop thinking about those strange questions. Yang Yi, who had experienced more serious problems, now felt that he was really living a simple life. All the problems were trivial, and he didn't even need to care about them. Life should be like this. Smile more and worry less. What is there that can't be passed? No matter how big the problem is, there will be a solution. Chapter 198. My mom can't come. It means that if you come to my papa's house to play tomorrow, you will only be able to see my papa. She said to her friends with a little sadness in her voice during the break between classes. I just want to see Shishi's papa. Shishi's papa knows how to cook delicious food. Lan Xian now looked forward to lunch every day at noon so that she could share lunch with Shishi. She also looked forward to the weekend every day so that she could go to Shishi's house and eat more delicious food. Unlike Lan Xian, Yang Luoqi didn't think about food all day long. She was thinking about what Shishi's mama would look like. The little girl said softly, I haven't seen Shishi's mama yet. It's always Shishi's papa who brings Shishi home. My mom is very busy. She doesn't have time. Shishi pouted. In fact, the little girl also wanted her mama to come and pick her up, but she still tried her best to defend her mama. Chen Shuryan was playing with a toy building block at the side. She was also listening to the conversation of her friends. At this moment, she finally found a chance to interject. She said straightforwardly, Hey, right, I haven't seen Shishi's mama. Don't tell me that Shishi doesn't have a mama like Little Belle? Little Belle was the nickname of a little girl named Ding Ling in the middle class. She also wore a black bell necklace around her neck. She was very cute, so everyone liked to call her Little Belle. However, Little Belle's background was quite pitiful. When she was very young, she lost her mama. Her father raised her alone, but her father rarely had time to take care of her because of work. As a result, Little Belle was very timid and introverted. She almost became an autistic patient. She was sent to the kindergarten and was carefully cared for by Teacher Mu. Only then did she get a little better. Chen Shuryan didn't mean to be mean. She was also a thick-skinned person. How could she think of the hurtful part of these words? She said it straightforwardly in an instant. Shishi was angry. When she was abroad, Shishi once thought that she didn't have a father. She felt very sad when she saw other people with their parents. Fortunately, when she came back and found that she had a father, she was very happy. That was why she liked to stick to her papa. However, the sadness was now exposed by Chen Shuryan. She was very angry. She pouted her lips, and her voice to herself. I don't have a mama's mamas. My mama is mama's is prettier. She to get to the point was to be angry. Was is to the mama. S mama to be? To the end to the end? To stop to the end to be released burst. This change happened too fast. Not to mention Lan Xian and Yang Luoqi, even Chen Shuryan, who was in the middle of a conversation, was stunned. Boo-hoo, it's not that I don't have a mama. She felt very wronged in her heart. She finally burst into tears. She cried very sadly. Ah, Shishi, don't cry. Yang Luoqi was at a loss. When Lan Xian saw Shishi crying, a sense of justice rose in her heart. After getting up, she shouted angrily at Chen Shuryan. Chen Shuryan, you're bullying people again. You even made Shishi cry. I'll tell Teacher Mu. After that, the chubby little girl turned around and ran out. Chen Shuryan was a little flustered. Although she usually liked to bully people, it was only because she thought it was fun. She didn't have the intention to make other children cry. Moreover, this time she didn't want to bully Shishi. Since Shishi brought her delicious food, Chen Shuryan never bullied Shishi again. She didn't expect that her unintentional words would make Shishi cry. She didn't know why, but when Chen Shuryan saw Shishi cry, she also felt uncomfortable in her heart. She even forgot to argue with Lan Xian. Teacher Mu quickly followed Lan Xian and hurriedly ran over. She saw Shishi crying sadly, and Yang Luoqi was also comforting her on the side. As a result, her eyes also turned red. What's wrong? What happened? Teacher Mu held Shishi and Yang Luoqi's small hands and asked softly. It's Chen Shuryan who bullied Shishi. Lan Xian complained. Yang Luoqi also rubbed her eyes and nodded. Then Chi, why are you crying? Teacher Mu was helpless. She now comforted Shishi, who was crying the loudest. She held the little girl in her arms and said, Shishi, don't cry. If there's anything, tell me. Chen Shuryan, come and tell me, what did you do? Teacher Mu asked Chen Shuryan in an amiable manner. At this moment, Chen Shuryan, who was originally very guilty and very frightened, also burst into tears. All right, 3 of the 4 people present cried. Teacher Mu had no choice but to look at Lan Xian. When Lan Xian saw her friends crying, she also inexplicably had tears in her eyes. However, her sense of responsibility made her stick out her chest and say to the teacher, "It's Chen Shiyin who said it. She said that she doesn't have a mother, and then she cried. I have a mom. My mom is a big star." She became more and more sad. She burst into tears, and the latter half of her words were unclear. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't mean that she doesn't have a mother." Chen Shiyin cried and refuted. I didn't mean that. I was asking. She has a mother. Teacher Mu, you've seen Shishi's mother before. It's just that she's too busy and doesn't usually appear. Teacher Mu understood the ins and outs of the matter and said with a wry smile. And no matter what, Chen Shiyin, you can't talk to other children like this, right? Chen Shiyin moved to Teacher Mu's side and sobbed. She choked and said, Teacher Mu, I know I was wrong. It's good that you know you were wrong. Come, Shishi, Teacher Mu will explain it to you. Teacher Mu gently said to Shishi. Chen Shiyin may not be very good at talking. In fact, she didn't mean that. Maybe she also thought that she had never seen your mother, so she was concerned about you. But she said the wrong thing. Chen Shiyin nodded vigorously. Shishi sobbed and pursed her little mouth aggrievedly, but her emotions tended to stabilize. Now Chen Shiyin, since you did something wrong and said something wrong, shouldn't you say something to Shishi? I've taught you before. Teacher Mu looked at Chen Shiyin kindly. Chen Shiyin sniffed and said loudly, I'm sorry, Shishi. I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. And Teacher Mu reminded her. Can you forgive me? I won't do it again in the future. Chen Shiyin looked at Shishi anxiously. Teacher Mu then hugged Shishi and coaxed, Look, Shishi, Chen Shiyin is apologizing so sincerely. Do you think you can forgive Chen Shiyin's unintentional mistake? Shishi's emotions had calmed down. Although she still sobbed for a while, she was not as sad as before. Her mood had calmed down. Chen Shiyin looked at Shishi anxiously, and finally saw her nod gently. She was slightly relieved, but her heart was still heavy. In the evening, when Yang Yi picked up Shishi at the kindergarten, the little girl had recovered. She smiled and said goodbye to her friends as usual. Goodbye, Xian Air. Goodbye, Xiaoyu. Goodbye, Chen Shiyin. However, Chen Shiyin was pulled by her mother as she mustered up her courage and walked to Yang Yi. Uncle Yang, I want to apologize to you and Shishi. I said this morning that Shishi doesn't have a mother, and made Shishi cry. I'm sorry, I know I was wrong. The strong little girl was not timid in front of adults. Instead, she apologized bravely. Obviously, Chen Shiyin's mother was told by Teacher Mu and immediately asked Chen Shiyin to apologize again. However, Chen Shiyin was also very good. She sincerely apologized. It doesn't matter. I'm not angry. Shishi took Chen Shiyin's hand and said with a smile, But my mom is really beautiful. Super beautiful. Almost half a day had passed. Shishi's anger in her heart had already dissipated. Moreover, the little girl was not a person who held grudges. Really? Chen Shiyin exclaimed. Yang Yi smiled and looked at the conversation between the two children. Chen Shiyin's mother was also apologizing to him in a low voice and explaining the situation clearly. It doesn't matter. Children sometimes don't mean what they say. Isn't there an idiom that says children's words carry no harm? Yang Yi calmly waved his hand at Chen Shiyin's mother. By the way, tomorrow your Chen Shiyin will come to our house to play. This is a map I made. I guess that you might pass through Jiangchuan. It's quite complicated to go around, so I made a hand-drawn map for you. Every parent has one. Chapter 199. Tonight, Yang Yi invited Guizi and Ding Xiang to his house for dinner. The main reason was for the small party at home tomorrow. Yang Yi would definitely be unable to handle it by himself, so he wanted Guizi and Ding Xiang to come over and help. It's not for free. I'll give you two a big red packet later. Yang Yi said to Guizi and Ding Xiang with a smile as he picked up food for his daughter. This guy was getting more and more familiar with the ways of the Chinese world. He had even bought a book to learn about it. Even the tradition of giving red packets was something he had read about in books. No need, no need. Ding Xiang and Guizi waved their hands almost at the same time, and said in unison, She slurped down her food and looked at Ding Xiang with her big eyes. She also glanced at Guizi from time to time. She knew both of them, but this was the first time she saw them together. Guizi smiled and said, "Brother Yang, you know that I'm not short of money. If I come over and help, I can even freeload food and drink. Why would you give it to me? Why don't you give both of your red packets to my senior sister?" What was a senior sister? Shishi's eyes lit up like a light bulb. She had questions. However, at this time, Shishi was eating a piece of crispy and sweet braised pork and didn't have time to ask. "I don't want it either." Ding Xiang blushed and waved her hand and said, "Brother Yang has provided me with such a good job and such a generous salary. How can I still ask for money? Salary is salary. This is rest time. I'm asking you to come out and help." Yang Yi still wanted to persuade. However, Ding Xiang said firmly, "There's really no need. Brother Yang, just let me help." Yang Yi wasn't a wishy-washy person. He shrugged and smiled. "Big brother Yang gave it to you, just take it." Guizi said with his mouth stuffed. He was really being wishy-washy. At this moment, Shishi, who had been holding back her question for a long time, finally finished eating the big piece of braised pork. She pouted her greasy little mouth and asked excitedly, "Uncle Gua, is Sister Ding Xiang your girlfriend?" Girlfriend? When Yang Yi heard his daughter's innocent words, he didn't want to laugh. Instead, he became vigilant. Where did Shishi learn this word? Did someone confess to her in kindergarten? Which blind brat? Guizi and Ding Xiang blushed at the girl's sudden question. Ding Xiang and Guizi hurriedly waved their hands and denied in unison. "Shishi, where did you hear that? Girlfriend?" Yang Yi picked up some food for his daughter and asked calmly. The girl was very disappointed with Guizi and Ding Xiang's denial. She thought she had guessed correctly. Facing her father's question, Shishi said nonchalantly, "The TV said that Little Bing Bing is Little Long Long's girlfriend, so Little Bing Bing can't play with De Zhuang. What kind of cartoon is this?" Yang Yi was speechless. He had to make Shishi watch less TV in the future. Because he was going to publish a book, Yang Yi specially went to understand the market of children's books and children's entertainment products in this world. He felt that the children's entertainment content in this world was uneven. There were excellent works like Rem's, but there were also crude works like Little Long Man's. More importantly, even if it was Rem, its content was more adult. The whole market was like this. Adult cartoonists and writers used adult eyes to create content. Even if they imitated a child's tone, the content was more suitable for children above the age of 10. It seems that I have to write Journey to the West and other storybooks as soon as possible, Yang Yi thought to himself. Just as Yang Yi was worrying about the country, people, and future generations, Ding Xiang was reminded by Shishi and remembered something. She smiled and asked Guizi, "Didn't you want to chase that graduate student senior? How's it going?" Guizi said proudly, "It's too simple. I'm the entertainment committee member of my class. After discussing with my classmates, they all agreed to sign me up. At the freshman party, I'll sing a solo." "Then what are you going to sing?" Ding Xiang asked curiously. "A Small Town in the South." Guizi felt that he was better at this song. Yang Yi frowned and said, "This song doesn't fit your concept of chasing a girl." Now that Shishi was full, she asked her father to wipe his mouth, and then jumped around the living room with the 3 kittens who were also full. Yang Yi didn't stop Ding Xiang and Guizi from talking about this topic. He was going to join in and give advice to Guizi. Guizi scratched his head and said in confusion, "Isn't A Small Town in the South good? How about I sing Brother Yang's song once you?" Brother Yang's song? Brother Yang can write songs? Ding Xiang was a little surprised. You don't know, right? Last time Chinijia. Guizi proudly talked about how Yang Yi sold songs to Chinijia. He smiled and said, "But don't tell anyone. Brother Yang is afraid of being harassed by paparazzi when he becomes famous, so he doesn't want to reveal his identity." Ding Xiang's reaction was flat. How could she have the time and energy to look at celebrity gossip? What kind of big star Chinijia was, she didn't have any idea. But she still nodded seriously and promised Yang Yi, "Brother Yang, you can rest assured that I won't tell anyone." Yang Yi smiled and waved his hand. He didn't care too much. However, Once you, Brother Yang, you haven't made this song public yet, right? Will it be bad if I sing it in public? Guizi pondered and said. It's okay, you can sing as much as you want. Yang Yi touched his chin and said. It's just that I think, once you is the same as a small town in the south. The concept is not quite in line. How about I change it for you? Change what? Guizi was overjoyed. College days. Yang Yi said lightly. At night, Yang Yi really began to write down the manuscript of Journey to the West, as he had thought before. However, Yang Yi had been hesitating about a question. That was, should he copy the original text word for word, or should he adapt it himself and write it into an easy-to-understand vernacular text? Needless to say, the original text certainly looked better than the vernacular text of Journey to the West. After all, this was a story that happened in ancient times. But Yang Yi felt that he didn't know classical Chinese. Even if he could read it out silently, it would be difficult to explain it clearly. Finally, Yang Yi thought of his original intention of writing this story. It wasn't for scholars to study, nor was it for adults to cultivate their sentiments. He wrote it to add fun to children's childhood. In that case, it was better to write it into vernacular text. Even if it was a little rough, as long as children could understand it, as long as ordinary adults could read it out, and then children could like the story inside, it would be enough. Before that, Yang Yi opened his mailbox and prepared to send the manuscripts that he had collected during this period of time to Changzi, so that he wouldn't be anxious all day long. However, Yang Yi found that there were several emails from Zhu Jie in his mailbox, including a money order of 3 million yuan. Interesting. Yang Yi's mouth curved up slightly. Chapter 200. You have to have fun today, do you understand? Then remember to ask Papa to take a picture. Mom wants to see it when she comes back. Mom is very sad because Mom won't be able to attend our Shishi's first family party. Murphy was already in Yangcheng. Because she had to leave for the TV station very soon. She had to rehearse for the program in advance, so she called Shishi early to talk to her. I know. Mom, don't be sad, Shishi will miss you. The little girl obediently held on to her father's phone and said to her mother. Murphy was very busy, so she hurriedly said a few words to Yang Yi and told Yang Yi to take care of Shishi and the other children. Then, she put away her phone and rushed to the TV station with Mo Shaowan. Yang Yi was actually very busy as well. He drove to the market early in the morning to buy the ingredients for today's meal. Yes, he drove. He didn't have to run across the mountains to buy ingredients like he usually did. No matter how strong he was, he wouldn't be able to carry it back. Guizi and Ding Xiang had already arrived, but Yang Yi didn't need their help in preparing the food. The little fatty only knew how to steal food and Ding Xiang wasn't as good as Yang Yi. So they were arranged by Yang Yi to set up the venue in the coffee shop downstairs. Actually, it was a bit troublesome because they had to move the big table out of the booth and put it at the back to make space for the adults to walk around and interact. Of course, more importantly, they had to arrange the food. Yang Yi planned to make it like a buffet where they could walk around freely to eat. Then they had to leave enough seats for the adults to rest, and for the little ones to play. As for the piano, Yang Yi temporarily kept it. Guizi volunteered to be Yang Yi's temporary pianist. However, Ding Xiang had her doubts. She felt that Guizi wouldn't even be able to lift his arms after moving everything. In the kitchen on the second floor, Yang Yi was nervously preparing the food for the afternoon party. He started with some desserts and snacks, because some of them needed to be refrigerated for a while. Shishi played with the kittens by herself, but the little girl was very excited today and couldn't sit still. After a while, she ran over and looked around. She pretended to be very interested and asked, Papa, what are you doing? I'm making pudding, all kinds of pudding, but now I'm making matcha pudding. Yang Yi was adding matcha powder into the ingredients and slowly mixing them together. Oh. The little girl was not interested in how to do it. She was very interested in eating pudding, but now she just licked her lips and continued. Papa, when will Xinair and the others come? Yang Yi poured the mixed matcha pudding into the pudding bottles he had specially purchased. Then he placed them into a steamer filled with hot water and lit the fire. Aren't they supposed to arrive in the afternoon? They might have eaten lunch and taken a nap before their parents drove them here. It's still early, Yang Yi said to Shishi with a smile while wiping his hands. Is that so? I want to play with them so much. Papa, look, Xiao Guai is also waiting. I told Xiao Guai that there will be a lot of sister's friends coming to visit it today. The little girl pointed to the kittens in the living room who were licking their paws and looking at her. Yang Yi forbade the kittens from visiting the kitchen. Sometimes, when they went to the dining room, he would catch them and take them back. After all, these places needed to be cleaned. In order to prevent them from entering the kitchen, Yang Yi specially bought citrus freshener and sprayed it around the kitchen and the entrance. Cats didn't like this smell, so although Xiao Guai liked to stick to Shishi, they still avoided the kitchen. I see. Have you thought about it? This afternoon, your friends will come over. How are you going to treat them? In addition to taking them to see the kittens, is there any other program? Yang Yi asked with a smile. There's still a program to prepare? Let me think about it. Shishi found something to do, so she didn't want to disturb her father. Finally, in the afternoon, luxury cars were parked in the open space outside the Yang family's house. Springfield Kindergarten was indeed located near the rich villas in Tingshan district. Father Yang, I don't know what to bring. Red wine is popular in our country. Although it's not very appropriate, I'll leave it for you. You can have a candlelight dinner with your wife. Haha. Lan Xian's father, Lan Kai, was a real estate tycoon. Although he didn't wear a suit, his casual clothes still made him look extraordinary. Of course, his tolerance was also extraordinary. He was indeed Lan Xian's biological father. This is good. That's my type. Yang Yi laughed heartily as he shook hands with the other party. Although Yang Yi was a little pretentious, just like when he went to big events to carry out missions in his previous life. A cafe owner who liked peace and quiet completely disguised himself as a smooth social butterfly. He could talk and laugh with Lan Kai, and he could also talk gently and elegantly with another child's parent. Red wine wasn't actually a good gift, because Murphy didn't drink anymore. Even if it was a candlelight dinner, she couldn't open red wine. But Yang Yi still accepted it in surprise, giving Lan Kai a good impression. The world of adults was indeed a little complicated, but the world of children was much simpler. As soon as Lan Xian arrived, she broke free from her father's hand and ran excitedly to Shishi, who was talking to her other friends. The two girls hugged each other excitedly. The group of little friends were chattering away, and it was very lively. Lan Xian's mother was a housewife. She smiled and said to Yang Yi, our Xian always comes back and praises Shishi's father for being good at cooking. Daddy Yang, you have to teach me a few tricks. Otherwise, Xian won't like my cooking anymore. Of course, that's not a problem. Let's talk more later. Yang Yi smiled. Now that there was another parent with a child, he made an apologetic gesture, and then asked Guizi to come over and help with the reception. He himself went to welcome the new guest. Ding Xiang was hardworking and capable, but she couldn't handle such an occasion. On the other hand, Guizi seemed to be familiar with it. He didn't look like a 16-year-old at all. He came over with a few glasses of juice and greeted the guests with a smile. It was Yang Yi's family, but it wasn't her mother that Yang Yi had seen before. Instead, it was a middle-aged man. The obedient Chi-Chi wasn't like Lan Xian. She stood beside him shyly and even politely called out, "Hello, Uncle Yang." "Hello, are you Yang Shi's father?" "I'm Yang Luoqi's father, Yang Gua. This should be the first time we've met." Usually her mother comes to pick up Chi-Chi, but today, her mother is busy. Yang Luoqi's father was older than Lan Kai, who was late in getting married. He had a bookish air about him. "Haha, yes, we were a family 300 years ago. Hello, hello." Yang Yi shook hands with him and smiled. He didn't forget Yang Luoqi. He nodded to the little girl in a neat dress and said, "Chi-Chi, you're finally here. Shishi has been talking about you all morning." "Really?" Yang Luoqi was a little happy and looked at Shishi and the others eagerly. Chapter 201. Seeing his daughter's expectant eyes, Yang Gua patted her on the shoulder and said softly, "Go and play with your friends. Since you're out today, have fun." With her father's permission, Yang Luoqi walked toward Shishi and the others alone. This child was really a little reserved. Even though she was already jumping for joy, she still didn't jump and run like Lan Xian, which showed that she had a good upbringing. In the conversation that followed, Yang Yi learned that Yang Guo was a teacher. He was a professor majoring in foreign languages. Of course, he wasn't a professor at Jiangqing Media University. He was a professor at another university in Tingshan District. Yang Yi received several parents one after another, including Chen Shiyan's father, Chen Guoqiang, a boxing coach. Of course, Yang Yi had seen him before, and Chen Shiyan's mother. They came together as a family. Nan Zhaoyu also came with his father. It was worth mentioning that his father, Mr. Nan Zhaoyu, was a great calligrapher. No wonder Nan Zhaoyu liked to read poems. Nan Yun was nearly 50 years old this year. He had a son at an old age, so he was very fond of Nan Zhaoyu. So many parents, most of whom were older than Yang Yi. Only Chen Guoqiang was about the same age as Yang Yi. Fortunately, they were all experienced people. Even if they were of different ages, they could talk to each other. Moreover, they had children as a common topic, so the scene was quite lively. Not to mention the adults, the children were having a lot of fun. They didn't have a kindergarten teacher watching over them today. They were like birds that had escaped from their cages, flying around and making a mess in the coffee shop. Of course, it was also very interesting. Shishi. Yang Luoqi was still thinking about the kittens. She found an opportunity to tug at the little girl, who was grinning from ear to ear, and said softly, "Can you take me to see Xiao Guai and the others?" "Yes, see Xiao Guai. I want to see Xiao Guai too." Lan Xian heard and shouted loudly. Okay. I've never seen a blue cat in my entire life." Chen Shiyan, who was 4.5 years old, chimed in loudly. "Tisk, you've never seen a blue cat before. I've seen a lot of them." Lan Xian proudly raised her head. This guy and Chen Shiyan didn't get along well, probably because they often compared whose voice was louder. Well, I'll ask my papa to take us up." Shishi smiled, turned around and ran to her father. However, her little friends were also 4 or 5 years old energetic children. How could they stay still? They giggled and ran behind Shishi. Yang Luoqi also trotted along. The little demure girl was probably influenced by her companions, and gradually became more relaxed. "Slow down, look at how sweaty you are." Yang Yi heard the commotion and hurriedly turned around to catch the little girl who had pounced over. He even squatted down and used his hand to wipe off the fine sweat on her forehead. "Papa, can you take us up to see Xiao Guai?" Shishi smiled sweetly. There were 7 or 8 children behind her. Some of them were not very familiar with Yang Yi and looked at him with a little fear. Others, like Lan Xian and Chen Shiyan, were already very familiar with Yang Yi, so they also chimed in. Yang Yi couldn't leave. He couldn't leave a group of adults on the first floor, so he asked Ding Xiang, who was not very comfortable in the crowd, to take the key and accompany the children upstairs to play. Ding Xiang was not as attractive as the kittens. As soon as she went upstairs, the group of children left her behind and swarmed over to Shishi. They shouted and yelled as they pounced on the kittens who were lazily playing in the living room. Meow. Little Gray was more alert. Seeing that the situation was not good, it rolled over and ran away. It climbed up the cat tree in a few steps, and even slid down the ladder to the top shelf. It was shivering and closing its eyes to sleep. Xiao Guai's reaction was one step slower. The 2 kittens were immediately surrounded by the naughty children. The boldest one, Chen Shiyan, couldn't wait to grab Shivering, who had just woken up and was still licking its paws and rubbing its face. Of course, Xiao Guai was still picked up by Shishi. "Look, this is Xiao Guai, my Xiao Guai." Shishi happily held up Xiao Guai for everyone to see. Meow. Xiao Guai was held up high and was stared at by a large group of naughty children with bad intentions in their eyes. It was a little nervous and struggled. Its tail was curled up and tucked behind its butt, indicating that it was very scary. "Earth is too scary, I want to go back to planet Meow Meow. It's so cute." Yang Luoqi's eyes were blurred. This kind of cute little kitten was really not something that 2-legged animals could resist. Except for Chen Shiyan, who was excitedly pressing down on Shivering, who was struggling hard. She also stroked Shivering's fur and studied it. After a while, she shouted loudly, "Shishi, you're wrong. It's not a blue cat. It's not blue, it's black. How can a black cat look like this? Lan Xian wanted to snatch Shivering from Chen Shiyun's claws. Chen Shiyin, who had finished her research, didn't refuse and let go of her hand. Well, it's gray. Chen Shiyin scratched her head and said, anyway, it's not blue. Cece was carefully placing Xiao Guai into the arms of Yang Luoqi, who was already unable to restrain herself. When she heard Chen Shiyun's words, she hurriedly explained, no, it's still blue. It's just that the color is darker. My mama said it's grayish blue. Okay then. Chen Shiyin nodded, but she was a little disinterested. She felt that the docile kitten was not fun. Her big dog was more powerful, jumping up and down, and could even use its mouth to catch plates. The other kittens didn't have as good resistance as Chen Shiyin. Shivering, and Xiao Guai were all being hugged and kissed. Only Xiao Guai, who had escaped to the shelf and refused to come down no matter what, escaped. My Xiao Guai is the smallest, but it's very powerful. The last time I went to barbecue with Papa, it even caught a little bug. Shishi was also very excited to tell some small stories to her friends. I'm so envious of Shishi. I also want a kitten, but my grandma doesn't like cats, so she won't let me raise it. Yang Luoqi gently touched the fluffy hair on Xiao Guai's head and said regretfully. After playing for a long time, Yang Yi came up, clapped his hands and said with a smile, children, it's time to go down. Uncle has prepared a lot of delicious food for you. If you don't go down, those things will be eaten by your parents. Food. Chen Shiyin was the first to jump up. She had been unable to hold back for a long time. The second to jump up was Lan Xian. As soon as she heard that there was food, and it was delicious food made by Shishi's father, how could the chubby girl sit still? I want to eat barbecue. Lan Xian shouted, drooling. Me too. We want it too. Encouraged by the loud voice, the group of children immediately left the kitten and shouted like they were in a market. Shivering also jumped onto the cat tree and didn't want to come down anymore. Xiao Guai had been carried here and there, so it couldn't even walk steadily. However, it still managed to climb up the cat tree and crawl into the small mine, with fear lingering in its heart. Only its butt and tail were exposed outside, wagging. But how could the children care about the kitten? Shishi didn't care either. She took Yang Luoqi's hand, giggled, and wanted to rush down with the big group. No, you have to wash your hands first. Yang Yi helplessly stopped the little one and pointed to the bathroom. After stroking the cat, they had to wash their hands, not to mention eating. Chapter 202. On the other hand, when Yang Yi was calling the children downstairs to eat, Murphy had also officially started recording the program, Fast Music, in Yangcheng. Obviously, with Murphy's current status in the music industry, she couldn't be the only guest of this program. She was only a foil. The main guest of this program was Li Man, who hadn't released a platinum album yet, but had been rising rapidly in recent years. Li Man had always been hyped as a commoner queen. Note 1. Obviously, this program wanted to create a PK scene between a former queen and a popular queen. Inviting Murphy to come was also an ulterior motive. Mo Shawan accompanied Murphy to the TV station today. She only knew about this arrangement after getting the script. She almost flipped out on the spot. Fortunately, Murphy was still calm. She stopped Mo Shawan, who wanted to make a scene. Maybe the TV station deliberately arranged this, but what can I do? Do I still have the right to refuse? Murphy's voice was slightly sad, but her face was still calm. Mo Shawan didn't think that this was only the TV station's problem. She felt that there was something fishy going on inside the company. But Mo Shawan hung her head dejectedly. Murphy was right. They didn't have the right to refuse now, even if the program was unfavorable to her. As long as it didn't touch on her principles, she could only endure the grievances and continue recording. Murphy was no longer the popular queen in the past. If she was a third-rate artist who threw a tantrum, she would be criticized by thousands. Which TV station would dare to invite her on a program in the future? Murphy faintly looked at the dazzling Li Man in the crowd and calmly said to Mo Shawan, I've already experienced the lowest point. Now I don't have anything to be afraid of losing. Since the program arranged for me to fight with her on the same stage, then there's no harm in trying. I don't think I'll lose. Just as Murphy was comforting Mo Shawan, Lee Man Man, who was wearing a shiny silver leather jacket and pants, walked over. She smiled like a flower and said, "Senior Murphy, long time no see. I just found out from the production team. I didn't expect to be able to record a show with you today. I used to be your fan." She was now a real big shot. She didn't even show up for the rehearsal in the morning, but the production crew still had to carefully serve her. However, Lee Man Man's current voice was very modest, so modest that it made people feel that it was fake. Mo Shawan noticed that several people were faintly discernible behind Lee Man Man. She raised her guard and whispered to Murphy, "Pay attention to your words. There may be reporters." Of course, her reminder wasn't necessary. Murphy used a dull tone to deal with Lee Man Man's inexplicable attentiveness. Not long after, she found an excuse to leave with Mo Shawan. Behind them, Lee Man Man restrained her smile. Her face was a little uncertain. She softly snorted. "Why are you pretending to be virtuous?" After a while, after Murphy touched up her makeup, she was informed to go backstage to record the show. Lee Man Man was already standing on the stage. She smiled sweetly and wittily chatted with the hosts Lu Xinqi and Chen Hang. They were recording the first section of the show. Lee Man Man's aura was very strong. Not only was she able to give a very clever answer to the host's tricky questions, but she also had a faint feeling of being the host. The male host, the handsome Chen Hang, almost couldn't control the situation. Obviously, everyone's success wasn't accidental. Murphy's previous success was due to her many years of accumulation and the explosive success of her album. Although Lee Man Man didn't have good singing skills, she had a pretty face, a sweet voice, and a smooth and slick personality. Coupled with the support of the company behind her, it was normal for her to be unparalleled in the limelight. Murphy watched from the backstage. She admired Lee Man Man's ability, but she wasn't envious at all. She didn't like to be so casual. That wasn't her character. Okay, now let's applaud and welcome Murphy, who became famous with the song Strangers, and is known as the Queen of Iceberg songs. Chen Hang called out loudly, interrupting Murphy's thoughts. With the background music of Strangers, Murphy gradually came out from the backstage. In the camera, she was wearing a plain white dress. She was still the same as 5 years ago, floating like an immortal. The years seemed to have no trace of the passage of time on her body. Lee Man Man looked at Murphy's tall and beautiful appearance. A trace of jealousy flashed in her eyes, but she hid it very well. Wow, our fast music can actually welcome 2 Queen-level singers to visit at the same time. It's really an honor. Tonight's audience, you are also very lucky. Lu Xinqi laughed. No, how can I be regarded as a queen? Sister Murphy is the queen. Lee Man Man covered her mouth and laughed. She began to introduce her experience of listening to Murphy's songs before, which transferred the audience's attention to herself. Mo Shawan was watching the recording of the show from an inconspicuous corner below the stage. She was secretly worried about Mo Fei, who was standing on the side like a pillar after getting on the stage. Elder sister, you need to say something. The weight is going to be taken by others. The host still asked Murphy a few questions, but the focus was still on Lee Man Man. Finally, the next segment was Lee Man Man's live performance. Lee Man Man sang the theme song of her new album released after avoiding Chen Yijia's limelight in August. The sales of this album were also relatively hot. Unfortunately, it was a breath away from the standard of platinum album. So when the host asked this question, Lee Man Man showed an attitude that she didn't live up to expectations and let her fans down. After saying some emotional words that made her fans' eyes turn red, she clenched her fist and encouraged, "But it doesn't matter, I will continue to work hard and strive for the next time. I won't let you cry for me again." The host finally found an opportunity to ask Murphy, who was in the background, "As far as we know, Murphy is also preparing her new album, right?" "Yes." Murphy nodded. "Wasn't the last album released only a few months ago? Why are you releasing a new album so soon?" Lu Xinqi pretended to be surprised and asked. "Because of a coincidence, I got the help of a benefactor. He helped me write 12 songs, which were very well written. Shinchi, you also know that we musicians want to record the good songs as soon as we come across them. Coupled with the strong support of the company, the new album was put on the agenda. Murphy said the lines that she had already prepared. After her discussion with Mo Shawan, Mu Xiang's identity was no longer just a fan. Murphy felt that it wasn't too much to regard him as a benefactor on her music road. He can write 12 songs for Murphy. This benefactor is amazing, Chun Hang said in surprise. Can you reveal which senior in our music industry he is? Mu Xiang. Murphy said faintly. Her tone and expression had always been the same and hadn't changed. But including the two hosts who knew about it, other people's expressions were wonderful. Chapter 203. Mu Xiang. Chun Hang was surprised. Lu Xinqi also tacitly asked, is it the Mu Xiang who wrote Better Not Meet and Long Time No See for Teacher Chinijia? Sure enough, he was the host of the Cantonese TV station. He habitually put the Cantonese song, Better Not Meet first. And yes. Murphy's answer caused the audience to exclaim in surprise. I came to your city. Li Man hid the surprise, envy, jealousy and hatred in her eyes. She sang a few lines of Chunijia's song to attract the attention to herself. I really like Teacher Mu Xiang's song. In fact, a female voice can also be very interesting. Unfortunately, this time she didn't succeed in stealing the limelight. After all, Mu Xiang wrote 12 songs for Murphy, which was more important. Lu Xinqi cleverly led the topic back to Murphy. There is still a very gossipy question. Mu Xiang can write 12 songs for Murphy, and I believe there are many good songs. The relationship between you two should not be ordinary, right? Murphy frowned. She was a little disgusted with this question, so she straightforwardly responded, No. No? Does that mean there is no special relationship between you two? Or it hasn't started yet? Chun Heng also began to stir up trouble, and asked with a smile. The former, Teacher Mu Xiang, is an excellent composer. He chose the right singer for his song, and he thought my voice and singing were suitable, so he chose to cooperate with me. Murphy straightforwardly said what Yang Yi used to deal with her. Oh. It turns out that Teacher Mu Xiang is such a special musician. Lu Xinqi sighed. I hope that through this program Teacher Mu Xiang can also recognize me. Li Manman's voice is also very cute and sweet. Li Man came up again, smiled and pretended to be cute in front of the camera, and said, Teacher Mu Xiang, I also have the surname Li. We are from the same family. If I can get Teacher Mu Xiang's favor and let him tailor a song for me, I will be very grateful. Why don't we give Man a chance and let her sing a complete song of Long Time No See? Let's see if she can move Mr. Mu Xiang, okay? Chun Hang had been fascinated by Li Man before, and now he was trying his best to create an opportunity for Li Man. As a result, the conversation with Mo Fei that was supposed to continue was shortened again. Moreover, Li Man was asked to sing a male song. After singing the whole song, Li Man, who didn't prepare much, sang very badly. She was somewhat lacking in energy. Fortunately, she was experienced on the spot. Relying on acting cute, dancing and some other small tricks, she covered it up. Under Li Manman's strong stage control, these small mistakes became the nodes for her to interact with the fans under the stage. Screams rose and fell one after another, unusually enthusiastic. Lu Xinqi waited for Li Man to finish singing before she brought the topic back on track. After asking the two guests some questions about music and life, she said, Our program today is actually very lucky, because Murphy not only came to the scene, but also brought a new song composed by Teacher Mu Xiang. Really? Teacher Mu Xiang's song. Today I must listen with all my ears. Chun Hang said, This should be the first female song written by Mu Xiang. Let's give a round of applause. Murphy has brought us coming across the sea to see you. Lu Xinqi smiled and pointed the camera to Murphy, who was standing in the center of the stage. She took Chun Hang and Li Man to the bottom of the stage, and the stage was given to Murphy. It's finally coming. Sister, come on. Mo Shawan, who was under the stage, excitedly clenched her fist. The piano accompaniment slowly sounded. The clean melody made the audience under the stage quiet down. Murphy stood in the middle of the stage, quietly just like when she went forward. On the stage, the dry ice machine sprayed out white mist. Murphy, who was wearing a plain white dress, was like a fairy floating in the clouds and mist, beautiful beyond compare. As if waiting for something, the audience, even Lee Man-man's fans, couldn't help but hold their breath. This was different from Lee Man-man's lively stage atmosphere just now, but it suddenly made people feel that it was not inferior at all. The prelude came to a point. Murphy raised the microphone. As if she was in a fairyland, her ethereal voice faintly transmitted through the microphone. For you, I used half a year's savings, and came across the sea to see you. How does it feel to open your mouth and kneel? Now the audience under the stage felt that their hearts seemed to be grasped by a small hand in this beautiful voice. They really wanted to kneel down and listen. For this gathering, I even repeatedly practice breathing when we meet. The last word, practice. The value of Murphy's voice that she had honed since childhood was reflected. It was like an echo in an empty valley, melodious and lingering in people's ears. There was an unconcealable jealous gaze under the stage. Lee Man-man knew those singing skills, but she couldn't help it. She didn't have Murphy's unique voice. Even if she knew too much, even if she sang this song, she wouldn't be able to sing it this way. What's more, Murphy sang so affectionately. Others didn't know. Mo Shawan also didn't know. Only Murphy herself knew. At this moment, she substituted her own feelings into the song, and her mind was full of Yang Yi's shadow. Even repeatedly practiced breathing when we meet. In this lyrics, wasn't it describing her current appearance? She was in a state of passionate love. In order to meet with Yang Yi, she had to carefully prepare every time. She chose clothes, put on makeup, and even began to speak carefully. She was afraid that, like before, because of a misunderstanding of academic qualifications, they would hurt each other and become unhappy. Not only this sentence, a strange city, that like a long sigh of hidden bitterness, suddenly broke the hearts of the audience under the stage. Who knew this condensed Murphy's bitterness? Those were the tears that she had held back and turned into resentment when she had brought up her child alone in this strange city without family and friends in Jiang City. However, being strong was actually exchanged for the joy of happiness now, so obviously, from the slightly brisk rhythm of the next section of also comforted each other, also hugged each other inside, the change in Murphy's mood could be heard. Watching you go away in the sandstorm, I was so sad that I couldn't control myself. Lee Man-man looked at Murphy calmly singing a sad melody from the audience. And the jealousy in her eyes had been ignited. The quality of this song was very high. Although it was not suitable for Lee Man-man's sweet voice, Lee Man-man couldn't help but daydream. If this song could be included in her previous album, it would be at the level of the title song. Then it should be able to continue the momentum and rush to the platinum album, right? Murphy was going to be popular. Lee Man-man could see that, no matter how other songs were, with this song, Murphy was going to make a comeback. So even if her heart was full of jealousy, her reason still told her that now was not the time to compete with Murphy. Chapter 204. Until the end of the world, I'll be with you for the rest of my life. Murphy finally finished singing the song. However, there was no warm applause. The audience was quiet, but there were already a lot of emotional audience rubbing their eyes. They were so sad that they couldn't help themselves. What a great song. I came across the sea to see you. Teacher Mu Xiang is indeed worthy of his name. I'm afraid that he wrote a classic song that is no less than Long Time No See. Chun Heng walked onto the stage with emotion. Lu Xinqi also said with emotion, yes, and indeed, Teacher Mu Xiang found the most suitable singer for this song. Murphy's performance just now was a vivid interpretation of the sadness of the song. Do you think that Murphy sang well? Naturally, the audience below the stage shouted in unison, nice to hear. Lu Xinqi and Chun Heng were not done teasing Murphy. They laughed and said, oh Murphy, don't you want to confirm it again? Could it be that Teacher Mu Xiang wrote this song especially for you? He even came across the sea to Jiang City to see you. Mo Fei still shook her head firmly and said, no, Teacher Mu Xiang is an excellent songwriter. His inspiration for writing songs may come from his own life, right? But it can't be related to the singer. Otherwise, would teacher Mu Xiang go to a coffee shop in Harbor City to write, "Long time no see" for Mr. Chen Yijia? Mo Fei just straightforwardly used Yang Yi's example to deal with her at that time, but she didn't expect that her acting skills were so good that it made Lu Xinqi and Chen Hang laugh out loud. The audience below the stage also laughed out loud. Only Mo Fei herself looked at other people inexplicably. Then again, there was a report that Murphy retired in the past few years because you married a rich businessman. Is that true? Lu Xinqi asked nosily. No such thing. Murphy shook her head. Then Murphy, have you made any progress in your relationship? After all, you've been idle for 4 or 5 years. You should think about your life, right? Chen Hang laughed. Last time, there was a scandal between you and an artist in your company. Those are all rumors, Murphy said firmly. However, regarding her relationship, Murphy still hesitated for a moment and chose to remain silent. Aya, Chen Hang, what do you mean by this? Do you want to chase after our sister Murphy? At this time, Li Man finally found her sense of existence and stood up to help Murphy out of her predicament. No, I'm just worried about Murphy. Chen Hang smiled. What's the hurry? Our sister Murphy is still young. We're not in a hurry to find happiness with you men. We can still enjoy the happiness brought by being single and music. Sister Murphy, don't you think I'm right? Li Man also took the initiative to show her goodwill. Murphy smiled faintly and nodded. Although she could still recognize Li Man's nature, they were still recording a program, so a little interaction was still necessary. What's more, Li Man was right. Who said that a 30-year-old woman was old? Who said that a 30-year-old woman should hurry to find a companion? This Chen Hang, he was stirring up trouble. After returning to Rivertown, Yang Yi led a group of children and came down from the upper floor majestically. Downstairs, Guozi entertained the parents very well. He was already in front of the piano, leaning sideways and singing in unison with a few parents. Sitting on the stool, the person playing was actually Lance Hao Kai. Among these parents, there were also hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Just now, Guozi volunteered to play the piano, but his standard was laughed off by the parents. Then Nan Xiaoyu's father, the great calligrapher Nan Yun, actually went up and showed off his skills. Nan Yun played better than Guozi. He had the standard of an amateur. When he played a classical song, he also won the applause of the audience. This time, the big boss Lance Hao Kai's hands were also itching. When I was young, I studied in the United States. I was also a little prince of piano. Lance Hao Kai boasted and went up to play for a while. His fat fingers were as dexterous as dancing elves. The coherent temperament and beautiful melody almost healed people's ears. Although Lan Xian's mother was covering her mouth and laughing, the pride in her husband's eyes was already written on her face. When Yang Yi came down with the children, Lance Hao Kai was being urged by Guozi to play a song similar to Farewell in This World. It was very old, but it just evoked the memories of this group of parents of a certain age. They all sang one after another. The parents were very happy, but the children couldn't care less. They were chattering. Shishi's father, where is the delicious food you said? Lan Xian's loud voice was particularly prominent. She couldn't wait to eat. Children, can you all stand here and close your eyes first? Yang Yi smiled gently and commanded. Shishi Chen Shiryan, you have to set a good example. Shishi was the most obedient. She was the first to close her eyes. She even whispered to Shishi, who was holding hands with her. Chi-Chi, close your eyes. There's a surprise. When Chen Shiryan heard Yang Yi calling her, her sense of responsibility suddenly exploded. She immediately came out and helped to maintain order. Close your eyes. If Shishi's father doesn't say it's okay, don't open your eyes. The adults had also finished singing and happened to see this interesting scene. They all smiled and looked at it with interest. Yang Yi and Ding Xiang were already prepared. They were just placed in the refrigerator at the back of the coffee shop. One by one, they took out the plates from the table and placed them on the table that had been set up long ago. Guozi went over to help, but it still took a little longer. Some children couldn't hold back. For example, Lon Xian, the little foodie, who smelled a little meat, couldn't help but open one of her eyes and secretly observe through the gap between her fingers. However, she was immediately caught by the discipline inspector, Comrade Chen Shiyin. Lon Xian, you can't open your eyes. Not only did Chen Shiyin try hard to maintain order for Yang Yi, but she was also strict with herself. She didn't even look back. She's really so cute, a mother said with a snicker. At this time, Yang Yi had already set up. He came over and said in a rather seductive voice, "Now uncle is ready. Children, are you ready?" Yes. The answers were uneven, but they were all very powerful, especially Lon Xian's. Then it's time to witness a miracle. Children, open your eyes. Yang Yi smiled and made way for the children to open their eyes and see the colorful food in front of them. Wow! Exclamations and cheers came one after another, but the loudest voice was missing. Lon Xian was only focused on looking at the plates of grilled chicken wings, grilled squid and grilled corn. She was swallowing her saliva, so how could she care about shouting? What are these? The shy child, Nan Zhaoyu, also came over. He was dazzled and didn't know how to choose. These are all desserts. The ones in front of you are puddings. There's milk pudding, strawberry pudding, caramel pudding, and this special dragon fruit pudding and mango pudding. Yang Yi smiled and introduced to the children. The dragon fruit pudding was the most beautiful. It was red and white, as if flames were layered. This was obviously the most popular among the children. They all clamored to eat it. However, the most delicious one was the mango pudding. Although it couldn't be seen from the outside, there was a great mystery inside. Yang Yi didn't want to tell them. It would only be interesting if they discovered it themselves. Chapter 205. Yang Yi had prepared more than just pudding and barbecue for the children. He had also meticulously made pastries such as pea cakes, pumpkin cakes, mango layers and egg tarts with blueberries and cranberries. He had also made desserts such as mango sago, double skim milk and so on. It could be said that it was beautiful and delicious. Not just the little ones, even the adults were tempted to eat. However, the children's appetites were still small. Even the little chubby girl Lon Xian was full after eating a few pieces of barbecue and drinking some sago. Just as Yang Yi was introducing the tips of making delicious food to the housewife mothers, she brought the fully fed little ones upstairs to play. She said she wanted to show them her toys. Lon Xian didn't even wipe her greasy mouth, giggling as she followed. Lon Xian's mother hurriedly called out to Ding Xiang, who was going to be a nanny for the whole day, to ask her to help her daughter wash her hands and wipe her face. The children had their own exciting stories, and the adults also had their own topics to talk about. Other than a few worried mothers who went upstairs to check on their children, the other adults were all chatting downstairs. Just as Yang Yi was dealing with the crowd, the real estate tycoon Lan Kai was eating a roasted drumstick without a care for his image while sizing up Yang Yi's shop with interest. "Brother Yang, is this coffee shop your current business? This location isn't very good." Lan Kai suddenly called out to Yang Yi, who was walking past him. He chuckled and said, "I don't mean anything else. Your shop's layout is very stylish. It's just that from a businessman's point of view, opening a shop at the entrance of Jiangqing Media University isn't a very good choice." "What do you suggest, Brother Lan?" Yang Yi asked. "If you want to open a coffee shop, especially if you want to create a brand with your own unique characteristics, you have to consider the problem of your customer base. There are currently two problems with your current customer base. First, the flow of people through this back door is very low. This has greatly limited your sales from the start. Secondly, Lan Kai finally acted like a businessman this time. He said methodically, "After all, the purchasing power of students is much weaker, unless you sell cheap coffee and win by quantity. But what you are selling now is handmade coffee, so the price can't be too low. Then you should consider the white-collar workers with higher income and quality of life requirements." Lan Kai had a good impression of Yang Yi. Not only did he guide Yang Yi in his business, but he also promised him that as long as Yang Yi wanted, he could provide Yang Yi with a shop in the Binhai business district at any time and rent it to him at cost price. However, Yang Yi still declined. He revealed a little about his main profession of writing novels, then smiled and said, "Opening a coffee shop is just a personal hobby of mine. Opening it here at the university, I can enjoy peace and also freeload off the artistic atmosphere of Jiangchuan. It's not to make money." Lan Kai was not very interested in literature, so he did not pursue the matter. However, he still expressed his admiration for Yang Yi's pure heart, and even asked Yang Yi to make him a cup of coffee. "Not bad, not bad. Your culinary skills are much better than my secretary's. Granny's leg, I think I should ask him to come over and learn a thing or two from you." Lan Kai laughed loudly as he tasted the Blue Mountain coffee that Yang Yi had specially brewed for him. At this time, the little guys swarmed down again. Shi, with a face full of excitement, ran to her father, took his hand and said expectantly, Papa, can you show us the golden cudgel like Sun Wukong?" The little girl also pouted her mouth and imitated the woo-woo sound of the cudgel. Her hand also seemed to be holding the cudgel, waving it to show her father. Yang Yi had no choice but to make an apologetic gesture to Lan Kai. Go, you don't have to entertain us. Just serve these little ancestors well." Lan Kai laughed. The shop was too crowded, so Yang Yi was surrounded by the little guys to the open space of the lawn outside the shop, holding a golden cudgel in his hand. That's right. It was no longer the poor broom. Since Yang Yi had performed it once, she liked it very much. Sometimes when she listened to the story of the journey to the west at night, she would excitedly ask Yang Yi to perform it again. Therefore, Yang Yi asked someone to custom make such a golden cudgel, according to his figure, the corresponding proportion, and the drawing he drew. There were flowing cloud patterns on it, and it was very beautiful. "I want to play too." Chen Shiyin, who was a little violent, said with envy, "This is very, very heavy. You can't pick it up." She waved her hand and explained to her, "My papa doesn't let me move it. He said it would hurt if I hit my foot." The children huddled together and giggled as they watched Yang Yi. Yang Yi didn't have stage fright. He put on a posture as if he was going to perform on stage. He first held the stick and cupped his fist to greet the audience. It's so fun. The children were happy first. Everything was so new to them. Yang Yi put on a posture and began to perform. There was no foreshadowing. As soon as he came up, he used the coolest spinning stick to attract the little guy's attention. Wow! When Yang Yi spun the stick with both hands, the windmill-like shadow of the stick made Lan Xian and the others exclaim again and again. They had never seen such a trick before. When Yang Yi began to spin the rod with one hand, he even twisted his body, switching from his right hand to his left hand. The whistling sound of the wind and the powerful aura made the little guys dazzled. Chen Shiyin screamed loudly. She was the most excited. She wished she could go on the stage and do such a cool action in place of Shishi's father. If so, she would definitely be the most popular child in the spring kindergarten. However, when Yang Yi waved the stick, the smile on his face could not be maintained. He saw the only two boys in the group of children, Nan Zhaoyu and another little boy. They could stand anywhere, but they stood beside Shishi, one on the left and one behind. What made Yang Yi's eyes spit fire was that Shishi was holding Nan Zhaoyu's hand while holding Shishi's hand. How old was he? He still wanted others to hold his hand. Wasn't he childish? Alert, level 1 alert, red alert. At this moment, Yang Yi only hated that the Jingu Bang in his hand was not the green dragon crescent blade. Ahem. Yang Yi still stopped. He pretended as if nothing had happened, walked over, and directed the children. Uncle is going to perform a big one later. Stand aside a little, and leave a passage in the middle. Yes, come Zhaoyu and that child, stand here. Shishi, stand over there with Qiqi. In order to let Shishi isolate the source of danger, Yang Yi even let his die-hard fan, Chen Shiyin, hold Shishi's empty hand. That was pleasing to the eye. Yang Yi calmly began his performance again. One moment he did a black dragon circling the pillar. The next he did a heavenly punishment. He smashed the Jingu Bang on the ground. The children watched with great interest, and did not notice Yang Yi's trick just now. Of course, Yang Yi really made use of the passage that had just been evacuated. He did a tiger leaping forward, somersaulting on the grass, and then shading his eyes with his hands, he did a classic looking back at the moon. This posture was quite decent. Even the parents who had walked to the door to watch cheered. It's good to be young. Nanny Yoon, who was already 50 years old, sighed. I just feel that it's a bit improper for him to jump up and down like a monkey. A parent couldn't help but mutter. Younggwa, who was standing on the side, retorted. How can you say that it's improper? This is a monkey show. It's an art passed down from the Han Dynasty. In the long river of history, monkey performers gradually groped for it. There were similar things in this world. Don't take it seriously. Lans Hao Kai also laughed and said, whether it's an art or not, I'm now envious of Yang Yi for having such good skills. You see, he's so popular with the children. This is the achievement that parents like us dream of achieving, right? Chapter 206. I found such an excuse so that the little brat couldn't hold Shishi's hand, and he didn't even notice it. Later, when I performed, he was still happily clapping for me. At night, Yang Yi proudly showed off his cleverness to Murphy over the phone. Pfft, you're really too much. Is there a need to be so vigilant? You're a 4 or 5-year-old child. You still don't know the difference between a boy and a girl. Murphy was amused by him and was in a good mood, so she rebuked him. I don't say that. Since Shishi went to kindergarten, we have to be careful. Who knows how many sinister people there are in this world? I think when you come back, we should discuss how to educate Shishi on children's sex. I'm going to buy some books to study. Yang Yi said seriously. Murphy was more influenced by Western education since she was young, so she agreed with Yang Yi's idea. The two of them talked about Mo Fei's show recording today. Mo Fei also told Yang Yi about her performance in detail. She also happily talked about how happy she was when she sang, "Coming Across the Ocean to See You," and got the audience's approval. When will this program be broadcast? I want to see your performance. Yang Yi's interest was piqued. Although he heard Murphy sing, he hadn't heard the live version of this song. It should be 2 weeks later on Friday night at 10 o'clock? But when you see it, you can't make fun of me for being so dull during the recording. I don't know what to say when I go on stage. Murphy said worriedly. How can that be? Your dull appearance is the most adorable in my eyes. Yang Yi said sweet nothings. The two of them were lovey-dovey for a while. Murphy thought of something. Yang Yi, there's something I can't figure out. Can you give me some advice? It turned out that after the recording of the show ended, Lee Man, who was trying her best to please Murphy, stuck close to her and called her Sister Murphy, and Sister Murphy sweetly. She asked me to give her Mu Xiang's contact information. She wants to ask Mu Xiang for a song. Hearing Murphy's voice, Yang Yi could feel her pouting like a little girl who felt that her toy had been snatched away by someone else. Yang Yi secretly smiled and asked, "How did you respond to her?" "I want to refuse directly. I think Lee Man is too hypocritical." Murphy's intuition was correct this time, she said, but she was so enthusiastic that I didn't know how to say no. Then did you give Mu Xiang's email address to her? No, I'm worried that Mr. Mu Xiang will be angry. So I told Lee Man that I would go back and ask Mu Xiang. Murphy said to Yang Yi, but I'm also worried that Mu Xiang will be too embarrassed to refuse because of my recommendation, which will affect his judgment. You can just give her the email address. It doesn't matter. Mu Xiang won't mind anyway. This email address has already been known by your company's people. Yang Yi said. Mu Xiang will have his own judgment. You don't have to think too much, he will make the right choice. Yang Yi wanted to let Murphy make her own music without any distractions. As for Lee Man, he would take care of it all. A rejection email could solve the problem, so Murphy didn't need to worry about it. Is this really okay? Murphy asked worriedly. It doesn't matter. You just tell Lee Man that you asked Mu Xiang. And he said that Mu Xiang doesn't care about an email address, but whether she can get Mu Xiang's approval or not depends on her own efforts. Yang Yi taught Murphy. What effort? All the sugar-coated bullets were settled by an email. No sugar-coated bullets were eaten. However, Yang Yi ate a person's sugar-coated bullets. After Zhu Jie found out that his money order had been withdrawn, he hurriedly went to find his incompetent advisor, Du Luan. The money has been spent. That Mu Ziong also used a new email to send me the music score and lyrics. What do you think of the song? Duluan asked curiously. Look, Zhu Jie didn't know how to evaluate it. Looking at the lyrics first, Duluan's face suddenly became strange. How to say it? The title of the song was very special. Mistress. This song. Duluan also smiled bitterly. He didn't know how to evaluate it. Duluan, do you think this Mu Ziong deliberately cheated me of my money? He wrote such a song for me. Zhu Jie said somewhat gloomily. Finally, you became someone's mistress. Are these the lyrics for a human to sing? Ahem, Jie, wait a minute. I think the lyrics are also very neat. It's quite easy to read. Let me look at the song. Duluan comforted. Duluan was not like Mo Shaowan. The latter relied on her relationship with Murphy to become a manager. She relied on brute force to make a name for herself in the entertainment industry. Duluan was completely in the industry. He used to have the dream of debuting, but unfortunately when he was a trainee, his talent was mediocre. He couldn't reach the standard of debuting, so he switched to being a manager. However, he still had the necessary musical literacy. He could totally sing it just by looking at the music score. After a while, Duluan stumbled and sang a few lines. Although I didn't say it out loud, actually I already had a premonition. After carefully tasting it, Duluan said to Zhu Jie, from the melody, there's no problem, this is a catchphrase song. It's not difficult to sing, and it's also very nice. A song written about a mistress like this is nice? Duluan, have you also been cheated on by someone else? Zhu Jie's mouth was full of shit. He didn't even choose his words when talking to his own people. Duluan's eyes flashed with a helpless anger, but he still suppressed it. He laughed and said to Zhu Jie, don't say that, Jie. Do you want me to play this song for you? After Duluan's performance, Zhu Jie had a certain degree of recognition, but he was still dissatisfied. Is this Mu Ziong old and confused? The songs he wrote for Chen Yijie and Murphy are so good, but the song he wrote for me is so bad? It's not bad, it's just that the lyrics are a little special. Duluan persuaded. It's good enough to buy this song for 3 million. If he gave you Long Time Not Seen, I wouldn't dare to let you use it. Long Time Not Seen is a song that Mu Ziong can earn at least 10 million in a few years. How would he be willing to sell it to us? If he gave you such a song, it means that he doesn't intend to use it himself. We don't have to worry about him going back on his word and suing us. What you said makes sense. Zhu Jie nodded thoughtfully. But such a song, how can I sing it? Jie, you don't understand, right? Right now you can't use normal methods to increase your popularity, but we can change the style of the song, change the operating method, and with this song, plus we'll deliberately look for the media to hype you up, packaging you as the little prince of sad love songs. You see, you won't have any competitors, you'll definitely become popular immediately. Duluan's brain worked very quickly. Really? Zhu Jie was a little moved. He longed to become a big star. This was the motivation for him to abandon his status as a young master and work hard to learn and debut. Really? Duluan also felt that his opportunity had come. He encouraged with all his might. Chapter 207. Yang Yi was really free now. The hard-working Miao girl, Ding Xiang, had been working hard to learn how to make coffee from him since the first day of work. After a week, Ding Xiang's progress was beyond Yang Yi's expectations. Not only was she very skilled in making coffee, but she was also very familiar with all kinds of coffee beans. Just by looking at the beans and smelling them, she could basically tell the ins and outs of the beans. Therefore, Yang Yi did not hesitate to promote Ding Xiang to the position of store manager and take over the management and operation of the coffee shop. As for the old store manager, he put himself in the position of honorary store manager and only cared about opening and closing the doors leisurely. As long as Ding Xiang came to help, he would sit in his exclusive booth, happily drinking coffee and reading novels. When it became a habit for him to leave everything to others, Yang Yi even wanted to close the door when Ding Xiang had to go to class. Of course, Yang Yi would not treat Ding Xiang badly in terms of money. He directly gave her 6,000 yuan for the first month's salary, and the salary was paid in advance on the day Ding Xiang was promoted. This was not Yang Yi deliberately breaking the rules. But Guizi secretly told Yang Yi that Ding Xiang had no money and could only eat bread and pickles. He and Guizi did not want Ding Xiang to feel that they pitted her and hurt the self-esteem of this strong girl, so they found an excuse to pay her the salary in advance. Of course, after receiving the money, Ding Xiang did not spend it extravagantly. She saved most of the money and was reluctant to buy clothes. She only slightly improved the quality of her life in terms of food. Yang Yi's kindness was also reciprocated. Ding Xiang worked harder and desperately thought of how to make more money for Yang Yi. For example, she had recently been learning how to make desserts from Yang Yi. Just like last time when she and her friends had a party, Ding Xiang was inspired. Maybe adding desserts would attract more customers. In the past, Yang Yi was too lazy to mess around, and now he was too lazy to participate. He casually let Ding Xiang mess around while he sat in the booth and wrote and drew. Previously, he had discussed with Murphy the issue of their daughter's sex education. Yang Yi naturally found it difficult to talk about it himself. After they discussed it again, they decided that Murphy would be the main speaker, and Yang Yi would create rich and interesting content. Now that he was using colored pencils, of course, Yang Yi wanted to create a teaching material with pictures and text. However, when Ding Xiang walked over and saw the naked cartoon figure on Yang Yi's drawing paper, she suddenly blushed. That I'm sorry, brother Yang. I didn't see anything. Ding Xiang turned around, still wanting to flee. Yang Yi had a holy expression on his face. He didn't think that he was drawing a pornographic manga. Seeing Ding Xiang's expression, he was a little confused. He stopped Ding Xiang and asked, "What's wrong? Why are you looking for me?" Ding Xiang actually didn't want to walk back, but when she saw Yang Yi put away her drawing, she moved back with a red face. She first bowed and then said to Yang Yi hesitantly, "Brother Yang, I want to. What do you want to do?" "It's like this. During the day, don't I often have classes and can't work properly? I want to come over at night and continue to help." Yang Yi laughed. "Didn't I say that the coffee shop isn't open at night?" "Yes, but that's because Brother Yang isn't free. Now I can help Brother Yang run the coffee shop at night. You can pick up Shishi as usual and take care of her at home. It doesn't matter. I'll help take care of the shop, and I can make more money at night." Ding Xiang explained. "Money isn't a problem. If you come to work here at night, can you keep up with your studies? If it affects your studies because of a part-time job, I can't afford this responsibility." Yang Yi laughed. Ding Xiang quickly waved her hand and said, "It's no problem. I usually make the best use of my time to study. Brother Yang also allowed me to bring books to work, so I didn't fall behind in my studies. In fact, I'm already very grateful to Brother Yang. When I was busy with part-time jobs outside of school, I often had to take the bus for a long time. Sometimes I would miss classes. I had to reflect with the teacher and take other classes to make up for it. Now part-time jobs are like a dream to me." Ding Xiang said emotionally. She was so moved that she choked up. In fact, Ding Xiang was a top student. She was the same type as Guizi. Even if she was busy working part-time all day in the last school year, she still got the first place in class and got a full national scholarship. What a terrifying existence. Yang Yi saw that Ding Xiang was so determined. He had to nod and let Ding Xiang take care of the coffee shop at night alone. "No matter what, you must close the shop before 8:30. It's too late, it's not safe." Yang Yi took out a key and gave it to Ding Xiang. He warned, "If I see you working too late, or if I know that your grades are declining, you can't open the shop at night." "Yes. Thank you, Brother Yang." Ding Xiang smiled brightly. Just as Ding Xiang turned her head and was about to go back to the bar, Yang Yi's eyes fell on her body. He casually called out to her, "Ding Xiang, wait." Facing Ding Xiang's puzzled eyes, Yang Yi pointed at Ding Xiang's shirt and skirt. He was a little surprised. "Your clothes? Why do I seem to have seen it yesterday? No, I saw it a few days ago." Until now, he still hadn't noticed what kind of scar his words had reopened. Ding Xiang bit her lips, lowered her head and said to Yang Yi, "I'm sorry, Brother Yang. I'll go back and buy 2 more sets of work clothes." The girl adjusted herself. She was still trying to find the reason from herself. She wondered if she was too reluctant to spend money. Now she was about to start the night shift. She couldn't wear a uniform during the day, wash it and dry it for tomorrow. She really had to buy 1 or 2 more sets of uniforms. Seeing Ding Xiang's embarrassment, Yang Yi finally understood. He quickly waved his hand and said with a smile, "That's not what I meant. I just suddenly remembered that since you're working in a coffee shop, I should also give you a few sets of uniforms. This is a coffee shop." "There are uniforms?" Ding Xiang was surprised. "Of course there are uniforms," Yang Yi said matter-of-factly. He had already thought of the uniform design. It was very beautiful. "But I've never seen Brother Yang wear it." "Oh." Yang Yi was speechless for a moment. He stammered, "That's because I'm the big boss. I don't need to wear a uniform. You workers have to wear it." "Okay. How much do I have to pay for the custom-made uniform?" Ding Xiang gave in and asked weakly. Just now, she wanted to buy a cheaper uniform. "Money. It's not your money. This is a benefit of the shop." Yang Yi smiled and waved his hand. "Tell me the size of your clothes. I'll send it to you when it's done. If we recruit new people in the future, we'll make it according to this style." Previously, when Yang Yi had custom-made clothes for himself and Cece to practice swordsmanship, he had met an old tailor with superb craftsmanship. The tailor specialized in custom-made clothes in the wealthy district. The materials used were better than those on the market, and of course, the price was not cheap. The problem was that it was comfortable to wear. Money was not a problem for Yang Yi. Since he was going to make uniforms, Yang Yi decided to personally draw the design and let the old tailor help him make it. Chapter 208. What's the use of raising you people? You can't even do a proper promotion? Boss, it's not that we don't work hard, but the chain bookstore doesn't cooperate, and the state-owned bookstore doesn't allow it. We can't do a good promotion. Just as the planners of Sahara Publishing House were frowning over the low sales figures of Shishi's fairy tales, a book review quietly appeared on the literary page of the Guangdong Evening News. Parents and teenagers who had been paying attention to Yu Qian's close sister column were surprised to find that in this issue, Yu Qian did not give examples to discuss the ignorant emotional problems between teenagers. Instead, she extended the discussion to the current situation of children's literature through the evaluation of a fairy tale book. Fairy tales are written for children under the age of 10. They don't need mature writing, adult psychological portrayals, or realistic story plots. A little dreamy story structure can trigger children's fantasies and leave them with good childhood memories. I think it can be regarded as a storybook that is worth buying for children to read. The Shishi's Bedtime Stories written by Mr. Yang Yi has such characteristics. The characters in it are rich and colorful. There are not only princesses and princes that children want to be, but also cute characters that are anthropomorphized by animals. It greatly enriches children's imaginations. In this book, I especially admire a story called The Three Little Pigs. The author used a humorous style to describe the battle of wits and courage between the little pigs and the big bad wolf. What's interesting is that in this story, not only do we gain joy, but we can also let children understand some principles. For example, don't simply believe in the words of strangers, and don't procrastinate when doing things. Only by being hardworking, smart, and witty can you achieve success. Yu Qian expressed her regret and hope for the current situation of children's literature. At the same time, she strongly praised Yang Yi's Shishi's Bedtime Stories. Regardless of whether they were Yu Qian's fans or not, after seeing her introduction, as long as they had children at home, they were eager to go to the bookstore to see if this book was really as good as Yu Qian said. Unknowingly, the sales of Shishi's Bedtime Stories showed signs of rising. However, the time was too short, and the data was not obvious. Even the staff of Sahara Publishing in Guangdong Province did not notice this change. By the time they noticed it, it was already too late. 2 days later, Guozi came to the coffee shop to give Yang Yi the admission ticket and invite him and Shishi to watch his performance at the freshman party. Yang Yi happened to come back with the custom-made uniform for Ding Xiang. "Aren't you going to invite me to have a look?" Ding Xiang asked Guozi with a smile. "It's my idea." Fine, if you want to go, you can go yourself. No one will stop you. My big brother Yang is not a student. Without this kind of admission ticket, you can't get in. Guazi waved his hand and said. Besides, senior sister, how can you have time to go to the party? Don't you have to look after the shop for brother Yang at night? That's true. Yang Yi looked at the crudely made admission ticket with great interest. When he heard the conversation between Guazi and Ding Xiang, he waved his hand and said, Let's go together. What's the point of opening the shop? I'll give you a day off that night. It was happily decided. Guazi picked up the uniform excitedly, turned it over and over, and said with some regret, Sigh, big brother Yang, it's so boring. I thought you were going to design it into a sailor uniform or a student uniform. Why are you touching it? It's wrinkled. Ding Xiang blushed and grabbed it, but her skin was a little dark, so even if she blushed it couldn't be seen. Big brother Yang, don't listen to him. If it was really that kind of clothes, I wouldn't dare to wear it. Yang Yi smiled and said in his heart, I also wouldn't dare to make it for you. Yang Yi told Murphy that he hired a female shop assistant. Murphy saw Ding Xiang's photo. This dark and thin girl didn't feel threatening, so she didn't say anything. She just told Yang Yi that she wanted to find a chance to meet this independent and strong Miao girl. Now that Ding Xiang was also looking after the store at night, the next time Mo Fei came over, the two of them would definitely meet each other. But if Yang Yi ordered those clothes for Ding Xiang that would make men's imaginations run wild, Mo Fei would probably also have some weird thoughts when she saw them. Then Yang Yi would have to sleep on the sofa at night. Put it on and see. Since it's already done, why are you shy? Quickly put it on and see. Guazi urged Ding Xiang. Ding Xiang had no choice but to be pestered by him. With a red face, she carried a set of uniform to the bathroom at the back of the coffee shop to change. Yang Yi had ordered a total of 3 sets for her. The other 2 sets were winter coats with cashmere lining, which were very comfortable to touch. Guazi and Ding Xiang had been quarreling and fooling around all this time. Yang Yi didn't participate. He quietly read a book, which was one of the more famous mystery novels in this world. But after a while, Guazi's shouting broke his concentration. Ding Xiang walked out, but she was no longer the dark and thin girl who didn't stand out in the crowd. The black and red coffee shop uniform made her look a little different. The uniform was a tight short-sleeved shirt with a standing collar, paired with a waist-tight skirt that didn't reach her knees. But it was different from ordinary formal wear. The shirt was made of black, smooth, high-end fabric with 4 vertical red buttons. The skirt was also sewn with exquisite craftsmanship, which made it look like an apron. One side was black, and the other side was red. The contrast was very clear. Interestingly, the skirt was sewn with 2 pockets that could be used to hold hands, as well as a notebook and small change. It was very practical and very useful. Of course, it wasn't just these 2. The entire set also included a red beret. It was a design that was between a beret and a chef's hat. It wasn't too mischievous, but it also had a special feature that made one's face look like a peach blossom. The clothes were secondary. What surprised Guazi was Ding Xiang, who was wearing the uniform. Ding Xiang's skin was originally dark, but under the contrast of the black uniform, her skin looked a little fairer. The tight-fitting shirt and waist-tight skirt suited a girl like Ding Xiang who had a petite figure, and it instantly added a little charm to her. Although she still had a slightly ordinary face and rough skin without any care, Ding Xiang, who had changed into the new uniform, had a shy look on her face. At that moment, she really had a different kind of beauty. TSKD. My brother Yang's talent is really indescribable. After making a fuss, Guazi went up to Ding Xiang and looked her up and down. He laughed and said, But senior, I suggest you perm your hair a little, leave a few curls on both sides of your cheeks, and wear a hat. I guarantee that someone will send you flowers to confess to you tomorrow. Go away, I don't want to perm my hair. How much damage would a perm do to the hair? And it's so expensive. Ding Xiang chased Guazi away. Don't bother me, I have to work. Chapter 209. Although the newly recorded episode of Fast Music hadn't been broadcasted yet, the news that Murphy sang Mu Xiang's new song had already spread. Many entertainment media also reported that Mu Xiang had written 12 songs for Murphy. This was still quite shocking. Some entertainment tabloid reporters even went to Chen Yijia's house specifically for this matter. Chen Yijia, who was wearing big pants and a loose t-shirt, was a little confused as he prepared to go shopping with his wife. Mu Xiang, the songwriter who worked with you before, has now written a song for Murphy. What do you think? This question was a bit like asking an aggrieved daughter-in-law with evidence of her adultery. Fortunately, Chen Yijia was used to dealing with these reporters. He immediately reacted and smiled. Of course, this is a good thing. If this rumor is true, then I'm happy for Murphy. Mr. Mu Xiang's songs are very good. And Miss Murphy is also a singer with a very good singing foundation. I also like them very much and look forward to their cooperation. Mu Xiang wrote 12 songs for Murphy, but only 2 songs for you. No, it should only be 1.5 songs. Chen Yijia, do you feel betrayed? The tabloid reporter continued to ask. Chen Yijia's temper was very good. He smiled and said, "How can that be? A songwriter doesn't only work for one singer, not to mention Mr. Mu Xiang. Such an excellent songwriter, he naturally received a lot of invitations. Of course, I still want to tell Mr. Mu Xiang that if there are any good male songs, you must leave some for me. I don't want 12 songs, 1 song is enough to make me very happy. Although I don't have any plans to release a new album, it's better to be prepared." Chen Yijia's participation made Murphy's new song set off a lot of waves. Many fans of Mu Xiang and Chen Yijia, as well as some fans of Murphy who had previously given up, paid attention to this series of news. They were all looking forward to the broadcast of this episode of the program. What kind of sparks would there be from the cooperation between Murphy and Mu Xiang? In Shanghai, Li Manman had let her manager review the email countless times. She had to consider every word carefully before she sent out the email recommending herself to Mu Xiang. The email was full of sincerity. Not only did she introduce herself, but she also talked about her admiration for Mu Xiang. She also attached a few of Li Manman's representative songs. Of course, the audio files were by no means at the level of a recording studio. It was even more exaggerated than the album she had released. "Sister E, do you think this will work?" Li Manman worriedly asked her agent. Yi Qi was her 6th manager. She was also the top manager that the company had arranged for her after she had started to climb up the ladder. She pushed up her gold-rimmed glasses and smiled faintly. Of course it can be done. You have to take it one step at a time. You don't have to rush. Build a relationship with Mu Xiang first, then slowly ask him for songs. That's right. With Yi Qi's guidance, Li Manman deleted her intention of asking Mu Xiang to write songs for her in the email. She only sent her audio files and asked Mu Xiang to point out her shortcomings. She didn't ask for anything else. Yi Qi analyzed from the current news about Mu Xiang. She felt that Mu Xiang wasn't a person who was greedy for money and honor. If Li Manman was too anxious, it would cause Mu Xiang to dislike her. "Manman, Sister E doesn't need to tell you. This is the same as fishing for rich men. We women can't shamelessly stick to them. If we are too anxious, it will backfire. Even if we succeed, the man won't know how to cherish it." Yi Qi held Li Manman's seductive face and said with a smile, "On the contrary, if you're more reserved and give him vague hints, you'll satisfy a man's vanity. Instead, he'll chase after you like a cat that smells fish. At that time, won't you be able to do whatever you want to him?" Li Manman revealed a sweet smile. She didn't know whether she was disdainful or grateful, but at this moment, she was like an ignorant girl who was being guided. She smiled shyly and happily. "Yes, that's right. Those men who haven't seen the world will definitely be fascinated by you," Yi Qi said with a smile. In a large conference room in the Student Activity Center of Jiang City Media University, a group of students were enthusiastically discussing the program arrangement of the freshman party. The number of singing programs reported is 40% more than the dancing and musical instrument programs. Only 3 programs are small categories. This won't do. If all of them are singing, then the content of our party will be too homogeneous. After a clear but somewhat dignified voice sounded, the buzzing discussion in the conference room stopped. If Guazi was involved, he would definitely recognize that the girl who spoke was the beautiful senior sister Du Yuanlei that he yearned for day and night. Director Du, but after all, this party is organized by the students themselves. Except for those who major in instrumental music, performance and so on, the rest of the students are inclined toward singing. This is normal. As for the skit program, it's already good that we have 3 programs. In previous years there was only one. A boy next to her said. Director Du, that's right. Du Yuanlei was the director of this freshman party. Although she was also a freshman, she had already studied directing for 4 years at Jiang City Media University. In the past, she had directed many parties, student movies, and even directed a small documentary that was on a certain satellite TV. It could be said that no one would question her qualifications. When we make programs, we have to constantly strive for perfection in order to achieve breakthrough results. If we always use the previous results as a comparison and relax our requirements, it will only get worse and worse. Du Yuanlei said coldly. She usually liked to observe and didn't speak much, but when she directed, she was very fierce. Suddenly, everyone else was silent. Huadao, go and discuss with the people in charge of these 3 programs. See if they can combine their performers to sing together. Xiaoyan, find a drama teacher, and ask them to help pick a few talented students to perform a play. And Liao Chaoyi, don't you know magic? You can come up with a program. Du Yuanlei arranged without hesitation. Huatao and Xiaoyan quickly nodded, but Liao Chaoyi hesitated. Is there a problem? Du Yuanlei looked over. Liao Chaoyi was stared at by her almond eyes and suddenly felt a sense of suffocation. He quickly waved his hand and said, No problem. That's good. Xiaoyan, go and ask the piano major. Ask a piano player to cooperate with Liao Chaoyi, but performing magic is too monotonous. Yes. Everyone agreed in unison. As for who suggested letting Thousand Mile Creek do a warm-up program, Du Yuanlei looked around. A girl raised her hand weakly and said softly, Actually, it's fine if we don't invite them. After all, they are not freshmen, and they only know how to sing. No, we have to invite them. I know the group Thousand Mile Creek. Invite them to come and sing their representative work. Du Yuanlei smiled. As a student group recently signed by an entertainment company, everyone's expectations for them should be high. Chapter 210. It's beautifully written. Use a little more effort when you draw the turning point. At the Yang family's dining table, Yang Yi was teaching his daughter how to write in her notebook. Recently, because the children had basically adapted to the kindergarten life, the teachers also began this semester's curriculum. Of course, it was not very complicated, just learning how to write. Starting from the stroke and the press, starting from the Arabic numerals, the children began to come into contact with the field of words. However, what made Cici a little unhappy was that the teachers also began to give her homework after class. Although it was not much, just copying 2 pages of the strokes that she had learned today, it was undoubtedly an unacceptable shackle for the little girl, who could play happily and even watch TV when she went home. Papa, I'm tired of writing, can you help me write? The little girl looked at her father pitifully, and said coquettishly. At this moment, the little girl's thought must be, I'm not happy, I just don't want to do homework. No, how can you let your father do your homework for you? You told your father the day before yesterday that Teacher Mu taught you a word. What is it? Yang Yi somewhat ruthlessly refused. He pretended not to see Shishi's big watery eyes full of grievances. It's integrity. Shishi pouted and unhappily said. Then if your father did your homework for you, Shishi would have deceived Teacher Mu, right? Is it a sign of dishonesty? Yang Yi asked. Although Shishi was unwilling, she still pouted and nodded. So, you have to finish your homework by yourself. Yang Yi lovingly rubbed the little girl's head and said, When you finish your homework, I'll draw a duckling for you in your notebook, okay? This was a classic example of giving a carrot after a stick, but Cici liked it very much. Really? The little girl looked at her father in surprise. Of course. And I'll draw it on the page where you finished your homework. Yang Yi said with a smile. He knew his daughter's little thoughts. The little girl especially liked to show off her father. She would tell her good friends anything good about her father. A small cartoon could also satisfy the little girl's vanity. Papa, can you draw one more? Are you going to draw this one too? Shishi looked at Yang Yi expectantly and pointed at the half-written page. Yang Yi had held the little fellow's hand and taught her to write. Well, it's possible, but that depends on whether Shishi is serious about her homework. In the middle, you can't look left and right, and you can't write carelessly. You have to write well. Then Daddy will draw you a sunflower that can spit out a small sun. Yang Yi laughed. Then Papa, tell Mom that I'm going to do my homework. Don't disturb Shishi. The little girl was suddenly full of energy and kept pushing her father. Say what? Murphy just came out of the shower. She was wearing a spaghetti-strap nightdress. Her hair was wet, and the cotton spaghetti strap was wet and dry. Today was only Thursday, but because Jiningming had something to do tomorrow, he had to go to school to attend a parent-teacher meeting for his son, who was in the first year of high school. In addition, Murphy was busy recording the program last weekend and had no time to accompany Shishi. Murphy simply gave both of them 2 days off and went back to the company on Sunday to continue recording songs. Let's talk about Shishi learning to write. Yang Yi stood up, took Murphy's soft shoulder, and said with a gentle smile, let's go to the balcony and chat. Don't disturb Shishi. Why? I want to see Shishi do her homework. Murphy was a little confused. Oh, don't disturb me. You can't write well. The little girl pouted and twisted her little mouth. She wanted to finish writing well, and then let her father draw on it. Murphy had to let Yang Yi take her hand and go to the balcony to talk. She was still worried about her daughter. How is Shishi doing in kindergarten? Can she keep up with the writing lessons? Don't worry about that. Shishi's performance has always been very good. Teacher Mu often praises Shishi to me, saying that she is well-behaved and smart, and that she learns to write very quickly. Yang Yi shrugged and said, I guess it's because Shishi can draw, unlike other children who have to start learning from holding a pen. That's great. When Murphy heard the good news about her daughter, her slightly cold face couldn't help but smile. When she worked outside, Murphy was used to being cold and aloof. Only when she came home could she smile with Yang Yi. But don't praise her too much. This little girl is a little arrogant. She wants to act like a spoiled child when doing homework. Yang Yi said to Murphy. In the room, Shishi was writing seriously. Yang Yi and Murphy were talking and looking at her. The little girl's appearance when she pursed her lips and wrote hard was also very cute. By the way, didn't you say that you hired a female student to help you take care of the coffee shop, and she also worked hard to open the shop at night for you? Murphy said and turned the topic to Ding Xiang. Yes, when I picked you up just now, didn't you already see Ding Xiang from afar? No, I just remembered when I saw Shishi doing her homework. I was a little worried about her studies. She has to help you take care of the coffee shop at night. What about her own studies? Murphy said. Yang Yi had no choice but to explain it to Mo Fei. He also listed a few times when there were fewer guests. Anyway, I don't intend to be very strict with her. As long as she does her usual work well, she can read books or even do something else during this time. From what you said, I feel that she is a very good girl. Murphy held Yang Yi's arm, and the two leaned against the railing and let the night wind blow. Yes, Ding Xiang is a good child. I heard from Guizi that her family is very poor in the mountains, and she has to earn money to pay for her tuition. When I took Shishi to the temple fair before, I saw her selling cotton candy. She is also very frugal. Before I ordered a uniform for her, she would wear a decent set of clothes over and over again. Yang Yi sighed with emotion to Murphy. Well, it just so happens that my coffee shop is getting more and more customers, and I need someone to help me. Guizi also recommended Ding Xiang to me. I happen to know her before, and I know that this girl is not bad, so I invited her to work here. I also want to help her by giving her more money. You help Ding Xiang, and she is also helping you. What's more, by doing good deeds and accumulating good karma, you might even accumulate good karma for Shishi. This is a good thing. Murphy's mother was a Buddhist, and she was more or less influenced by it. She held Yang Yi's hand and said emotionally. Yang Yi smiled. He didn't believe in Buddhism, But he also felt that Murphy was right. The concept of doing good deeds and accumulating good karma, in the words of the internet from his previous life, was to accumulate karma. Has Ding Xiang gone back now? Murphy held Yang Yi's wrist and looked at the time. It was already past 8:30. She said with some regret, I still want to see this girl. I don't know if I will have the chance tomorrow. Yang Yi also mentioned Guizi, but Murphy had no interest in that little fatty. She still wanted to see Ding Xiang. After all, Ding Xiang was a girl. Yang Yi also looked at his watch and said with a smile, we close at 8:30. It is now 8:40. Ding Xiang definitely hasn't left. She must be cleaning. This girl, I told her many times to go back early, but she wouldn't listen. Chapter 211. When Yang Yi and Murphy returned to the living room, Shishi had also finished her homework. The little girl ran to her father with the book, as if she was presenting a treasure. I've finished it. I'm super serious. Shishi looked at her father expectantly, hoping to get his praise. Yang Yi took the exercise book and appreciated the full page of his daughter's handwriting with Murphy. The little girl did write very seriously. Not only did she try to imitate the examples that her father taught her, but she also wrote a few small squares that were not perfunctory. After all, it was just a stroke. Murphy couldn't appreciate it, but she was very happy with her daughter's performance. She immediately bent down to pick up Shishi and kissed her daughter's face. She smiled and said, Yes, Mom is very happy to see such a serious attitude. You wrote very well. Dad will come up later and draw for you, okay? Yang Yi also kissed Shishi's other face. She was kissed by her parents on both sides. Shishi held her two little cheeks that were kissed by her parents. She was overflowing with happiness. The little girl smiled happily. How could she still care about painting? Shishi put her arms around her mother's neck and followed them downstairs. She asked curiously, Where are we going? We're going to the coffee shop. Murphy said. Ah, I don't want to go to the coffee shop. I don't like coffee. The little girl pouted and said. She actually wanted to watch TV. The little girl took a long time to do her homework. I didn't ask you to drink coffee. Mom just wants to see the sister Ding Xiang you mentioned. Murphy laughed. Oh, then I want to play. Sister Ding Xiang is very nice. Last time I took Xiaoguai down. She helped me catch Xiaoguai. Shishi giggled. Yang Yi guessed right. Ding Xiang was still cleaning. In order to save electricity, she turned off the rows of lights, leaving only dim yellow lights. Big brother Yang, Shishi, this is... Ding Xiang heard movement at the door and came out with a mop. When she saw Murphy, she was stunned, but she didn't dare to say her guess out loud for fear of making a mistake. Sister Ding Xiang, this is my mom. Shishi rushed to introduce her. Yes, my lover Murphy. Yang Yi nodded. Murphy glanced at Yang Yi. She wasn't used to the way Yang Yi addressed her, but she didn't explain. Instead, she smiled and nodded at Ding Xiang. Hello Ding Xiang. I've heard about you from Yang Yi many times. Sure enough, she was the lady boss. Ding Xiang hurriedly greeted Murphy and carefully called her lady boss. This girl wasn't ignorant. She was also a little nervous about whether she would be hostile to Murphy because she was a girl and lose this well-paid job. However, she was still too worried. When Mo Fei saw her thin and small appearance, and her slightly ordinary appearance, the guard in her heart that was not high in the first place had been completely lowered. You call Yang Yi Big Brother Yang, but you call me Lady Boss? Based on the story Yang Yi told before, Murphy had a good impression of Ding Xiang. She smiled and said softly, You can also call me Sister Fei. Well, hello Sister Fei. Ding Xiang nodded and said. She hadn't recognized Murphy yet. After all, she didn't have any concept of an entertainment star. Murphy put down the impatient Shishi and let her play by herself. Then she took Ding Xiang's hand and said gently, Ding Xiang, give the mop to Yang Yi. You've been working hard all day. Take a rest. Yang Yi didn't care very much. He used to clean once a day. He took the mop that Ding Xiang refused to let go, and went to the toilet to change the water. Papa, I'll help you. Shishi followed him, and her pleasant voice echoed in the empty coffee shop. What can you help me with? Well, help Papa get water. Carry a bucket? Well, I'll carry it with you. Mo Fei withdrew her gaze from her daughter. She looked at Ding Xiang and asked curiously, Ding Xiang, your name sounds like Ding Xiang from Lilac Flower. If it weren't for Yang Yi telling me that you're from Xiangxi, I wouldn't have recognized you. Yes, many people think it's lilac when they hear my name for the first time. Ding Xiang smiled shyly. Then someone asked me if I like lilac. Then do you like lilac? Murphy asked with interest. How would I know what lilac looked like before? Now I know, but I don't like it very much. I think its color is too bright. Ding Xiang said. In fact, there are many kinds of lilac. The bright colors should be red and blue. As far as I know, the lilac in the capital is very beautiful. The flowers are yellow, like the stars in the sky. There are also local lilac in Cayenne province, and another white variety called Buddha's hand lilac are very beautiful. When Murphy talked about flowers, she was really full of enthusiasm. The two stood by the piano hand in hand, and chatted for a long time. Ding Xiang had already diligently wiped the table. Yang Yi didn't take long to clean the rest of the floor with Xishi's help. After asking Xishi to wash her hands, Yang Yi let her out. What are you talking about? We're talking about Ding Xiang's major. Their electronic media major is a bit interesting. Not only do they have to learn media courses, but they also have to learn programming. It's different from the content of the media major students recruited by our company, Murphy said. Electronic media, that's the future trend. Yang Yi inadvertently revealed a secret, but Ding Xiang didn't know about it, and Mo Fei was not interested. Oh right. Yang Yi suddenly remembered that Murphy was going to open a studio in the future. An idea floated up and he asked, Ding Xiang, do you have any students in your major who have a high level of programming or who have done website design? There should be, right? I haven't learned any deeper knowledge, but there should still be some seniors who have a better grasp of it. Ding Xiang said. What are you going to do? Murphy asked curiously. I just have an idea. If there is such a talent, I want to invest some money in it and do a project. Yang Yi smiled and said to Murphy. Murphy suddenly lost interest. She didn't interfere with Yang Yi's idea of spending money. Then I'll go back later and ask for Big Brother Yang. I have a senior sister in the student union. She knows a lot of people. She will definitely be able to help you find the talent you want. Ding Xiang promised seriously. It doesn't matter. Just do your best. At worst, I'll go to Shanghai and find a comprehensive university to recruit people. Yang Yi waved his hand indifferently. Well, we can't talk anymore. It's too late. It's not safe for Ding Xiang to go back. You'll have to work too late in the future. When it's time to close the shop, Yang Yi doesn't lack money. Murphy said to Ding Xiang with concern. It's okay. It's really okay. In fact, the campus is quite safe. Ding Xiang gratefully said to Murphy. Chapter 212. Maybe it was because it was dark, or maybe she was too nervous. It was not until the next day, when Mo Fei, who came back from sending Cici to school in the morning, took the opportunity to play the piano in the coffee shop that she suddenly remembered. Oh, Sister Fei, aren't you that? Ding Xiang couldn't remember. She quickly ran to the shelf next to the bar and took down an album. Yes, this is the singer? Every day, when cleaning, she learned from Yang Yi and used a feather duster to sweep the dust off the shelf. Naturally, she had seen Murphy many times. No wonder she felt that she was familiar. Yes, but you can't tell anyone. Mo Fei stopped his hands and smiled. In fact, she had foreseen that Ding Xiang would have such a reaction, but she didn't expect Ding Xiang's reaction to be so long. Definitely not. Ding Xiang quickly waved her hand and raised her finger to swear. I will never tell anyone. If I do then. Okay, don't be so serious. Murphy smiled and held the girl. It's not a big deal. We just don't want others to know because we are afraid that it will affect our peaceful life. Ding Xiang quickly nodded. However, this matter obviously couldn't be hidden from another person. Guazi. This guy ran to the coffee shop excitedly after class in the morning to find Yang Yi. Brother Yang Yi, let me tell you, the program of our freshman party has been adjusted. My program wasn't merged with the director, and I can continue to sing solo. Guess who the director is? Who is the director? As Yang Yi spoke, he glanced at Murphy, who was arranging flowers in the shop with Ding Xiang. He lowered his voice and said to Guizi, "Remember, don't tell anyone that I am Mu Xiang." "I didn't say that. I just let it slip last time and let senior sister know." Guizi was confused, but he still lowered his voice and said, "Just remember." Yang Yi nodded. Ding Xiang, I told her before. Although Ding Xiang saw Yang Yi choose songs for Guizi and knew that Yang Yi had written songs, she really didn't know anything about the entertainment industry. After recognizing Murphy in the morning, she didn't connect the two things, which gave Yang Yi the opportunity to tell her in private. However, Ding Xiang didn't think too much about it. She didn't have the most basic idea of what songs Murphy had sung, and who wrote those songs. She just did whatever the boss told her to do. After whispering to each other, Yang Yi nudged Guizi and asked, "Who's the director you mentioned?" "Oh, that director is Du Yuanlei, the graduate student senior sister that I like. Wow, she is so handsome. Big brother Yang, you don't know, when I saw her this morning, my heart almost jumped out of my chest." Guizi said, "I think that she didn't combine my songs because she is interested in me." Yang Yi was a little speechless about his narcissism. "What do you mean?" Ding Xiang and Murphy heard the commotion and came over. Ding Xiang asked curiously, "No, I mean that today's class is boring." Guizi thought that the song he was going to sing was also written by Yang Yi. He was afraid that he would make mistakes if he said too much, so he quickly changed his words. "This is Guizi Murphy, a friend that I told you about. And this is Shishi's mother, Murphy." Yang Yi introduced Murphy and Guizi. Yang Yi didn't mean it, but Murphy still cared a little about the change of address. She felt a little bitter in her heart. But fortunately, Guizi was a boy, so Murphy didn't think too much about it. She just nodded to Guizi. "Hello." Guizi was stunned when he heard Yang Yi introduce Murphy. He was not Ding Xiang. When he looked carefully at Murphy's appearance, he recognized her. Then, Yang Yi's words kept flashing in his mind. "This is Shishi's mother." Shishi's mother. Guizi took a deep breath and asked hesitantly, "Sister-in-law, is sister-in-law really Murphy?" "Yes, she is the owner of so many discs on Brother Yang's shelf. Sister Fei is a star," Ding Xiang introduced to Guizi. "But don't tell anyone. It will bring trouble to Brother Yang and Sister Fei." Mo Fei was overjoyed by the way Guizi addressed her. A smile appeared on her face as she said, "That's right." Guizi quickly nodded. However, a slightly strange light flashed in his eyes. He looked at Murphy for a while, then looked at Yang Yi for a while. Murphy noticed Guizi's gaze and was a little puzzled. However, she didn't think too much about it. She thought that Guizi was surprised by her relationship with Yang Yi. After all, there was still a gap in status. At this time, the wind chime at the door made a pleasant sound. A guest had arrived. Murphy quickly apologized and sat back in her more secluded booth. Ding Xiang also helped Murphy and actively greeted the guest to cover for Murphy. Guizi finally had time. He couldn't hold back his words. He immediately pulled Yang Yi to the side and said apologetically, "Brother Yang, I didn't know that Murphy was sister-in-law. When she returned and the album's results were bad, I thought it was funny. I'm sorry. This guy could be quite straightforward sometimes." "It's okay. I didn't know before." Yang Yi smiled and didn't care. "But Brother Yang, you are so good at writing songs. Why didn't you write a few songs for sister-in-law? And you hit it. Is it because you only write songs for male voices? It doesn't matter. If you explain it to sister-in-law clearly, she won't mind, right?" Guizi frowned. What he really wanted to say was this. "It's not this problem. I hid this identity for a reason. It's just that I can't tell you this reason." Yang Yi smiled at Guizi. "But how do you know that I didn't write songs for her?" "Did you? But didn't Mu Xiang only write songs for Chonijia?" Guizi was confused. "Go back and watch the entertainment news." Yang Yi patted Guizi's head and walked away with a smile. Guizi was busy preparing the song for the freshman party recently. He even borrowed Yang Yi's guitar to practice. How could he have the time to watch the entertainment news? Just when he went back to the dormitory with a confused face and used the computer to search on the internet, he saw that some portals reposted the news of Murphy singing Mu Xiang's new song, Crossing the Sea to See You. Just by looking at the name, I feel that it's very romantic, Guazi muttered. He scrolled down with the mouse, and his eyes almost popped out. Wow, he wrote 12 songs. This is secretly spreading dog food. Guazi didn't know that he was the only one who ate this special dog food. But I don't know why Brother Yang hid it from Sister Murphy, Guazi secretly muttered. But I think this guy is very pretentious, he. Chapter 213. Yang Yi didn't plan to open the shop on the weekend, but he couldn't resist the request of Ding Xiang, who wanted to repay him. Hence, the coffee shop on the corner of the street still hung up its signboard on the weekend. However, Ding Xiang didn't forget about Yang Yi's request. She used the rest time at noon and at night to compile a list of technical and design experts with Mao Peifu. Of course, the consent of the person involved had to be obtained. The process was a little more complicated, but on Monday, they sorted out the list and gave it to Yang Yi. Mao Peifu also followed. This girl's aura was different when she appeared. She was energetic and did things cleanly. This is the list, and this stack is the photocopies of some of their award-winning works. But can I ask what kind of project Mr. Yang wants to do? Mao Peifu asked directly. Ding Xiang was a little afraid that her senior sister would have a conflict with Brother Yang. She pulled Mao Peifu's sleeve worriedly. It's okay. It's not that I can't say it. I mainly want to make 2 websites. Both are social networking sites, but different types of social networking sites. Yang Yi waved his hand. He took out a stack of printed paper and handed it to Mao Peifu. He smiled and said, I have drawn the general framework for you. Then I need your people to join my project and help me make this idea into a reality. Yang Yi revealed a lot of details in the proposal he gave to Mao Peifu, but he wasn't afraid of leaking it because this perfect concept had been registered with the Copyright Association. Others couldn't touch it. Of course, although the Copyright Association in this world had complete protection, not just anyone could register their ideas as a patent. This kind of concept patent had a very high threshold. Yang Yi had almost written the complete framework and internal function division in detail before he could apply for this concept patent. Although the proposal given to Mao Peifu could be said to be used by someone who wanted to make the product he originally wanted, it didn't matter. The Copyright Association could completely protect Yang Yi's rights. Mao Peifu opened the stack of proposals. First, she was shocked by the 2 websites that Yang Yi had drawn. She couldn't help but read out the 2 names, micro-broadcasting and Facebook. Yes, one is a social networking site to share real-time short messages, and the other is a social networking site with a personal homepage. The latter is a bit similar to a personal blog, but it's simpler to operate and more focused on its social function. Yang Yi nodded. She didn't know why, but when Mao Peifu flipped through the proposal and looked carefully at the introduction of each function, she felt that a new world was appearing in front of her eyes. Her strong heart couldn't help but set off waves. Mao Peifu secretly clenched her fist, but she still held back her excitement. She first cautiously asked Yang Yi, Mr. Yang, this project is really good, but I want to know how much money can you invest in it? The question she asked was actually a bit beyond her current identity. However, Mao Peifu thought more, and she couldn't care less about Ding Xiang's anxious eyes. Yang Yi didn't have to say it, but he didn't care. He said, I will invest 8 million in the beginning, which includes the staff salary, bonus, and the initial operation and promotion costs. Then, if there is a certain effect, I will add another 10 million, or even more. At present, he could only take out 8 million, and this was the largest round number he could take out after the money from the sale of the TV series copyright of the 2 books and the income from other copyrights. After deducting the monthly donation to Zhu Lian's Hope Primary School project and the usual expenses at home, this amount of money, if thrown into the internet, wouldn't even make a splash. However, it was enough for the construction of the 2 websites and the initial server purchase costs. What's more, Yang Yi directly gave them a perfected product that had been modified and innovated countless times, reducing the project team's fumbling and bumping into a wall. Perhaps there would be a surplus of 8 million in the initial investment. The pie that Yang Yi drew made Mao Peifu completely convinced. Although her family background was good, this girl still wanted to have a certain career and achievements to prove herself. I also want to join this project. I can help you manage the personnel and help you deal with the public relations issues. Mao Peifu looked at Yang Yi eagerly. I don't want a salary now. Then what do you want? I want a future option commitment. After all, he wasn't familiar with Mao Peifu. Of course, Yang Yi wouldn't give her a commitment right away, but he still gave Mao Peifu a chance to participate. In the follow-up work, Mao Peifu's management ability, which had been influenced by her family since childhood and honed by the work of the student union, gradually showed itself. The division of the two tasks of the project, the personnel arrangement, and the time control were all sorted out in an orderly manner by her. Not only that, under her management, the immature or careless college students worked well with each other. Even if there were occasional small disputes, there were no major problems. Naturally, Mao Peifu also won the option commitment of a future startup company for herself. Of course, this was all in the future. After finalizing the two websites, microbroadcasting and Facebook, Yang Yi had a headache because of his daughter's complaints. It's so difficult to write, Papa. Why is Shishi's name so difficult to write? The little girl held her small cheeks, pouted, and sat in front of the newly bought children's desk, sulking. Chi-Chi and Chen Shiyun's names are not difficult to write. After learning the strokes for a week, the teachers began to assign a new task. That was, every child had to learn how to write their own names. This was great. Some children with more complicated names wanted to cry, such as Lan Xian and Yang Shi, Yang Luoqi, Chen Shiyun, Nan Zhaoyu. These three children's names were all 3 characters, but their 3 characters were relatively simple. Compared to Yang Shi and Lan Xian, who had 2 characters, it was much easier to write. Papa, why can't Shishi be called Yang Yi? This is easy to write, the little girl said with a big imagination. Later, Yang Yi learned from other parents that there was indeed a child in another class named Xiao Yi, but he was a boy. In the face of his daughter's complaints, Yang Yi could only smile bitterly. There was no other way. When Murphy gave Shishi a name, he was not present. If he knew that his daughter would complain all night, Yang Yi was afraid that he would give his daughter the simplest name, even if it was a homophone with his name. Fortunately, Yang Yi was very good at dealing with his daughter. He helped his daughter to tuck her hair behind her ear and smiled slightly. How about this? Today, Daddy will write your name with Shishi. Write a very, very big character. After a few times, you will definitely learn it. Then, if Shishi learns it, Daddy will tell you more of the story of Journey to the West tonight. Where were we last time? Did you say that Tang Sanzang was caught by a monster, and then Sun Wukong and Zhu Beiji went to find him and fought in the Fire Cloud Cave? Yang Yi smiled and said, Shishi, do you know that this monster is a child, and his father is actually the Bull Demon King, Sun Wukong's big brother when he wreaked havoc in the Heavenly Palace? Really? A child monster? Who is the Bull Demon King? Isn't he very powerful? Cece's attention was immediately attracted by Yang Yi, and she had forgotten her little resentment just now. She looked at her father with her big eyes and asked expectantly. She had forgotten the story of the Bull Demon King, but she still remembered when he wreaked havoc in the Heavenly Palace. You have to learn how to write first. Daddy will hold your hand and teach you how to write, okay? Yang Yi asked gently. Okay then. The little girl was suddenly very motivated and took the initiative to put her small hand holding the pen into her father's big hand. You're tuning into the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.